Welcome to a very special edition of Let Freedom Ring here. As you know, we cover wrestling on Let Freedom Ring from time to time. We are going to talk about our top 25 favorite wrestlers of all time. I have Josh Mears here, the host of Beyond the Pyro, a Four Families member. Overall, great guy.
Overall,
And we're gonna
there's some
we're gonna
flaws.
go we're gonna go over our top 25 favorite wrestlers of all time. I think they're gonna be different because Josh, we have like what do I have? 10 years on you?
Yeah, I believe it's a 10-year age difference. So you,
So
like we were talking about earlier, you came from like the golden era and the attitude era. I came from ruthless aggression and PG. Like those are the eras we grew up with. So we look at that. We look at wrestling very different ways.
it's going to be interesting. I have a figure for everybody well, except for one, but I have a figure for everybody, so we'll be putting that on the screen. But before we get into anything, we want to talk about honorable mentions because we both, I mean, as wrestling fans, we have a lot of people that we're big fans of. But the top 25 is really narrowing it down. Who's your honorable mentions, Josh?
Uh, Honorable mentions, man. I couldn't find a spot for him on my list, but I gotta put, like your Jake Roberts up there. I gotta put Owen Hart up there. I gotta put JBL up there for honorable mentions. They did not break my top 25, but damn if they didn't come close to it.
So I have a few here on my list, and this can be interesting because again, I'm old school, but Cody Rhodes is on my honorable mentions. Cody's just someone I've always been a big fan of. I've met him. He was great. Doesn't break my 25. I have AJ Styles on there. Another great wrestler that just doesn't break my top 25. Mike Awesome is another one. Like Mike Awesome, if you saw him wrestling back in the day, he was unfreaking believable. Again, if you want to comment, make sure you comment on there. If you do it on my private page, it might not work, but on the Let Freedom Ring one, it will. I also have Samoa Joe. I have Bam Bam Bigelow. I guess I have a lot. Owen Hart's probably on there too. Canyon, Lex Luger, John Cena, The Miz, the Big Boss Man is one too, and the final one I'll throw out there is Carmelo Hayes. I know he's still trying to blow up a little bit, but I'm a big fan of Carmelo Hayes. What do you think of him?
I definitely think 5 6 years time. I think he might be in the top 25 list easily. I really do. I see a lot of promise from Carmelo. I've been a huge fan of his work. Him and Braun Breaker, the only two reasons I really tune into NXT anymore, and that's still giving it a little too much. I hope if they do bring him to the main roster, I hope they do right by him because the man has all the talent in the world. If they give him something to run with, he'll run with it.
Yeah, I like him. He's a local guy, awesome guy, and I want his career to just take off. But again, we hope you all will interact with us as you can. Um, let's hit 25 here, Josh. I'm gonna let you go. Well, I think we should go back and forth on who goes first here. I'm gonna let you go first on this one. You're 25.
All right. So we want to start at 25, work our way up to number one, or do we want to start at one and
Yes.
work our
Yeah,
way
we're gonna
down?
start. We're gonna go all the way to number one. Tell me why it's your favorite, or they're on that list. Yeah, tell me why they're on that
All
list.
right. Easy enough. So, me. I was doing something in the background. Let me pull my list back up. All right. So, coming in at number 25, I actually have one of your honorable mentions. I have Samoa Joe at the top 25 for me. Reason being, again, I came up from the Ruthless Aggression PG era. I started watching like 2006. If anyone's been following Samoa Joe's career, hey, how you doing? That's kind of when his career really took off in TNA. I've been a huge fan of Samoa Joe's work from his days in TNA and Impact, if you want to call it that. NXT, he was awesome in NXT. I loved him in NXT. It was the run he should have had on the main roster and never got. And now he's in AEW. He's the Ring of Honor Television Champion. Like, if you want a good match, and Samoa Joe's in that list, rest assured you can put Samoa Joe in a match, and he's going to make sure you get a good match. Like, that is 100% what Samoa Joe's going to do. He might put him to sleep. It might be a squash match, as some of the IWC fans would want to call it. But even that squash match is going to be good. Samoa Joe does things that a big man shouldn't, but he makes him look easy. I'm a huge fan of Samoa Joe. As a fellow big man, mad props to Samoa Joe. He's the true head of the table when you talk about Samoan wrestlers.
I've always been a big fan of his. He doesn't break my list, but Samoa Joe, oh my God, since 2004, since I was introduced to him, he really is one of the best. Like, he's a Hall of Famer. If you're going to talk Wrestling Hall of Fame, he has to be in that category, in that conversation at least. I think he'll get in the WWE Hall of Fame.
I think so. He definitely deserves it. As we've said before, and I'm going to sound like a broken record until somebody tops it. If Queen Charmel can be in the Hall of Fame, Samoa Joe can be in the Hall of Fame.
All right, well, I'm going to give you my 25 here, and I have figures for almost all of my favorites ever. And the first one I'm going to put on there is the Ultimate Warrior. Now, I originally made my list in 2013, which is I made this years ago, and we were talking. I couldn't go back. I couldn't change it, Josh. I could not go back and take anybody off. I just couldn't do it. The Ultimate Warrior is one of the reasons why I love professional wrestling. When I was a kid, it was like there was nobody better than. He didn't have to do much to be great. He'd run down to the ring. He would make you believe like he was this crazy person. And man, I love the Ultimate Warrior. And I was so happy when he got into the Hall of Fame because I think he really did deserve it. And I do think that, man, my childhood would not be the same without Jim Hellwig, the Ultimate Warrior. And I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah, like honestly, Ultimate Warrior's good, but I didn't grow up watching him. He was not wrestling when I got in, so I can only go by the content that I saw on the network. And growing up in the era I did, I couldn't see it.
I loved him. It was so unbelievable. That music hit, and it was like, and it's like he'd come down, kick somebody's ass, and it was unbelievable. I love the Warrior. I'm always gonna love the Ultimate Warrior. It's hard to even put him at 25 because I think I could rank him even higher. But like, I was a big fan of him. We got Crayon Dude already joining in here. Ultimate
Crayon
Dragon.
Dude.
Good to see Crayon Dude. Love that guy.
Always great to see Crayon Dude. Always love having him
Dragon, in the chat. Ultimate Dragon fan there. Do you want me to go next for 24?
Yeah, go for 24 because I'm taking your inspiration. I'm grabbing every figure I know I have.
I love it. I have not lost weight, but I appreciate that, Crayon Dude. I will try to at some point. I have not yet. I don't want to piss people off here, but I have to be true to what I enjoyed watching wrestling. And my 24 is the Crippler, Chris Benoit. I understand that
you're getting us canceled.
Yeah, we're gonna get shut down right after this. When it comes to Chris Benoit, I will say this: what happened with him was awful. Obviously, what he did was so bad, but I can't go back into my wrestling fanhood and say that I was not a fan of Chris Benoit. He was one of the best in the ring. Overall, just like you can't mimic what he did. And I take offense to Jordan Gracie there.
Yeah, Jordan Gracie.
Saying that he couldn't have performed with the people today. That's not true. Now what Chris Benoit did in his life was heinous, and he should be remembered for that. But if you're telling me that he was not a great wrestler, I have a problem with that because that's not true. It's just not true.
Yeah, Chris Benoit was a phenomenal wrestler. Problem is, his work just got overshadowed by the horrendous things that he did. That's the key difference here. And excuse me if my voice is going in and out because, I had a Jenga moment. So,
and Crayon Dude's right. Chris Benoit was the Rabid Wolverine. He was the best technical. When I first saw him wrestle Eddie Guerrero, it was one of the best things I'd ever seen in wrestling. Like they were really really good, and it's just it sucks that his life ended the way that it did, and not only that, but his wife and his son, and it's disturbing, and it's never going to sit comfortable with anybody. But I can't sit here and say that he wasn't great in his time. He really was. It broke my heart when that all went down because he really was one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And he still is. It's not easy to think about what he did.
Easily. So
Who do you have at 24, Josh?
24, I have the Olympic gold medalist, Kurt Angle, coming in number 24. Um, again, so a little backstory. The way I got into wrestling was WrestleMania 22, Dan. I think you and I have talked about this before.
Yes.
So obviously, that being the first wrestling show I ever saw, I also got to see an amazing triple threat match between Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, and Kurt Angle. I would then follow Kurt Angle's career in TNA because it wasn't too long after that he was gone. So Kurt Angle, I'm telling you that 2006 and probably 2012 Kurt Angle, my opinion, peak Kurt Angle. That man was doing stuff that he had never done in his career and making it look like he'd been doing it his whole life. The MMA, the little MMA gimmick he had in TNA, where he was wrestling in the taped feet and the Muay Thai shorts and holding all the belts in TNA. No, Kurt Angle was a machine back then. He would have ranked higher on my list had he not done that stupid retirement tour where he lost to Baron Corbin. I feel like that tarnishes legacy. I hate retirement tours. I like this Ric Flair's last match thing. I'm not about it. I care more about the other matches than I do seeing Ric Flair wrestle again. I'm sorry, WrestleMania 24, he looked horrible. It was clear it was past his time. And for some reason, this man still has it in his head to keep going. And I felt that way about every wrestler who's done a retirement tour since. So Kurt Angle's retirement tour, I'm not a fan of. For that reason, he's down at 24.
I'll be giving Kurt Angle more praise later, just because of what it meant to me at the time, especially with his whole career. I guess we're going 23. I guess I'll go next year, and it's the whole effing show. Rob Van Dam. I don't know how much more I can say about this guy, how much he meant to me as a wrestling fan. And you know me, I was an ECW mark. I'm clearly an ECW mark. And Rob Van Dam was putting on the matches that you couldn't believe, like his stuff with Jerry Lynn and everything that he did was just unfreaking believable. He was the longest reigning TV champion of all time, and it was actually he made the TV title feel like it was bigger than the world title. That's how good he was. And when he did get to WWE, on top of that, in the Invasion storyline, he was pushed to the moon, and they gave up on it. And it was good for him to finally beat Cena in Hammerstein Ballroom for ECW One Night Stand. But man, Rob Van Dam, his athleticism in his prime, I don't think anybody could touch him.
Yeah, RVD, I mean, that man was a whole nother monster. Especially when he used the Money in the Bank briefcase and had that match with John Cena. My God, I don't think I've ever heard Cena get booed as loud ever since.
No,
they truly hated him. I'm really like John Cena when he was coming in and out of that arena had to have had the biggest security force WWE's ever had because them Philly fans were really trying to stab him.
Well, New York, they were New York fans because it was yeah.
Either way, ECW fans were trying to stab him.
I'm sure there was a ton of people from Philly.
They were trying to stab that man. Like they truly hated that man's guts because they wanted RVD and ECW original to be the WWE champion. So
when Cena threw his shirt out to the crowd and the guy wiped his ass with it, I was like, ugh. But Rob Van Dam, man, people were passionate about him. And they were in 2000. And it sucks he got hurt because the company was already taking a hit at the time. And then RVD goes down and he had to forfeit the title. And I remember, you remember Cyrus, though. You might not remember because, again, we are saying we're 10 years apart. Cyrus the Virus took the title from him. And it went up into a tournament or whatever it was. But man, RVD really did carry that company. And he was maybe not the world champion, but he really carried that company for a long time. And I also love it at Barely Legal 97 when he's like, I didn't even want to put my boots on tonight because they didn't actually have him on the card, which was kind of crazy to see the star that he became. But who do you have at 23, Josh?
Number 23 is the first figure reveal of
Oh, here we go. This is what we want to see.
Nine. I actually have 9 of these people on here. The best man in the business, the best heel in the business today, one Maxwell Jacob
Wow.
Friedman.
Okay.
All right, people and Dan Roddy Piper. I don't know. We don't know each other's lists. We can assume who number 1 is, but we don't know each other's list. Roddy Piper might be on your list. MJF is my generation's Roddy Piper.
Okay.
This man can draw heat. This man could walk into Long Island, his own hometown, that cheers him vigorously and manage to draw heat from them. This man, at 24, 25 years old?
I think he's only like 25, yeah.
Is easily the top heel in the business today when you have people like Roman Reigns playing a heel, when you have Edge playing a heel. You have all these veterans playing heels. And this man is just now turning old enough to rent a damn car. And he's the best heel in the business.
It didn't take him long.
And he never turns it off. If you've ever seen videos of him at like autograph signings, at meet and greets, no, this man is 100% a phallus.
He's a
dick. He's 100% a dick all the time. All the time, without fail. This man keeps kayfabe alive in a world where kayfabe is dead. That is hard to do in 2022. And for that, MJF comes in at 23 for me. He breaks that top 25 for me.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you appreciate that more?
100%.
He is doing something like that because no one else really is doing that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, kayfabe is dead to 99% of wrestlers. MJF, either that man knows how to keep kayfabe alive or he is in real life an actual dick. Like,
I've heard a lot of people like him behind the scenes, so I wonder about that. But I agree with you. Like, that's one thing about wrestling today is that no one maintains that. Nobody.
Yeah.
It's oh, well, I saw a picture on social media with Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns hanging out, but they had this match tonight.
Yeah.
It's like the business has really changed quite a bit. All right, I'll go back to you for 22. We'll zigzag this. Zigzag this, I should say.
Oh man, I wish you had made that joke a few spots higher because I would have a great transition then. Coming in at number 22 is one Mike the Miz Mizanin.
Okay.
So I want to preface this by saying, because he's ranked higher than MJF, I do think MJF is a better heel than the Miz.
I think that's fair.
I really don't think that's even a debate. MJF has more freedom where he's at right now, so he can save a little bit more messed up stuff. Gets him a little bit more heat. The thing here, though, is Miz, rightfully so, is more accomplished than MJF. Miz has been in the business for a much longer time. He's been in the business since before MJF even went through puberty. So it makes sense he's been more accomplished. But you're talking a multi-time Intercontinental Champion. This was one of the few guys who, during that weird 2012 to today time period, actually took the Intercontinental title and made it mean something again.
I agree.
And that Miz can easily function face or heel. He can turn it on either way. He's been a great face. He's been a great heel. The Miz is a guy, if you need someone to plug in a program, plug him in. He'll fill the role, whatever the hell it is. He'll fill it. He'll fill it, no questions asked, and it'll be a great feud. Will it be a 5-star feud? Probably not. Will it be a great feud? Yes. Will people remember it? Yes. So The Miz comes in at 22 for me because this is a very accomplished man, and honestly, he's underrated in the WWE. A lot of people do not give him the respect he truly deserves.
It's very crazy what the Miz has done because he was on the Real World, right? And I remember him from the Real World, and they actually had I don't know if you remember. You probably don't remember this. This is like 2001 and maybe 2000. Roadkill came in to like coach him a little bit. If anybody remembers Roadkill from ECW, right? They brought him in to kind of talk to the Miz about what he needs to do to be a pro wrestler. And Miz went on to, I guess, just destroy anything Roadkill had ever done. Like, his career is like, he's a Hall of Famer. He's everybody, I think a lot of people that even don't watch wrestling know who the Miz is.
It's true. I mean, the man's a reality star. He's been in movies. The man's got a career after wrestling. That's easily said.
100% agree. He doesn't make my 25, but that's okay. I will say for my number 22, the Legend Killer, Randy Orton. Now, I throw Randy Orton in here because a lot of people are going to be like, well, Dan, you grew up on the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars and all that stuff. Randy Orton was the first star post that time. Again, and I'm just going to say this right now, and it's probably going to blow your mind. Brock Lesnar's not on my list either. Randy Orton was the guy who I was like, damn, that's what I'm talking about. That's who I want to see. That's who I want to be like. So like Orton, he has to be on my list. I love Randy Orton. I still love Randy Orton. Him being the Legend Killer was some of the best stuff that I ever saw. And then to see him become the apex predator and everything that he's become, it's like Orton, man, I don't want to say he doesn't mean more to WWE than John Cena. And I agree with that. But man, to me, Randy Orton was my guy. He really was. Kyle Kaplan says it's crazy what he accomplished considering where he came from, which I agree with. I believe that was...
I think it's about the Miz.
That's probably, that's for the Miz. That's definitely because Orton. We already know Orton had what? No, Brock Lesnar's not on my list.
I'm sorry, Kyle. He's not on mine either, and I'm from that era. Like,
and I love Brock Lesnar, but he's not in my top. He's not in my top 25. He's just not.
Top 50, maybe.
Top 50 for sure. For sure, Brock Lesnar would be in there.
Maybe.
But he's not in my top 25. I guess it goes back to me. Now, this is going to be one that's probably going to piss people off, and they're going to be a little bit shocked by this. My 21 is the People's Champion, The Rock.
21.
And I freaking love The Rock. People are going to say, why is he not even in your top 10? And I'm going to tell you this. The Rock didn't wrestle very long. He didn't. And he didn't make me just... I love The Rock and everything he did, but it's like he pieced out on us before we even got to see what he was capable of. Or how much more he was capable of. But no one was better on the mic than him. Nobody. And he really could prove that from Rocky Maivia to what he became by like 1998 was just very unbelievable. Like, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah, man.
I mean, the Rock's a Hall of Famer, no doubt. He's just not. Yeah, he doesn't break my top 10.
The Rock is a bigger star as a movie actor than he was a wrestler, and that's honestly sad to say. But I mean, really, you raise a point. He didn't wrestle that long. Was he one of the biggest names in sports entertainment? Yes, of course he was. But he wasn't there long.
Because Steve Austin's going to come up on my list, obviously.
Oh, me too.
Stone Cold Steve Austin wasn't just great as Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was great as Stunning Steve Austin too. Okay, so Oh my, Ringmaster was. I didn't have a problem with it, but
We're not gonna put some respect on the Ringmaster's name.
it was all right. But Stunning Steve Austin was way over, more over than the Ringmaster.
Look, I'll address Stone Cold when we get to Stone Cold because he's up there on my list. So we'll be doubling back to that one for damn sure.
All right, who do you have at 21?
21. I have the current interim AEW World Champion, one Jon Moxley.
Okay.
Now, I want you all to realize something. I said Jon Moxley. I didn't say Dean Ambrose. I said Jon frickin' Moxley. And the reason I'm putting emphasis on this, and this might irritate some people, but you know what? They don't call me the smoke for nothing. I bring the heat. Dean Ambrose's run in the WWE was mid. I'm sorry. He was a 1-2-time WWE champion. It wasn't that great. He had one world title run.
Yeah.
It should have been more. The man should have been a top star. He had all the potential to be one. They dropped the ball with Dean Ambrose. This man leaves. He's upset. He decides, I'm not going to re-sign. I don't want a new contract. Just let me go. He leaves. He shows up at a pay-per-view for a company that doesn't even have a weekly show at this point and becomes one of the most talked about people in the world of wrestling when he attacked Jericho and Omega and gave Omega an FU off of a stack of poker chips. This man carried AEW through the pandemic era. Think about this, people. Who was the AEW World Champion going into the pandemic era? I believe Jericho was there when it started.
Moxley won it right before the pandemic exploded. Yeah.
So Moxley won this title right before the pandemic started. This man carried a company on his back, a brand new company with no freaking fans, and still had a very memorable run with a world title. Imagine what he could have done in WWE.
He's never truly done a lot for me. I love the Wild Thing.
That's the other thing. This man's supposed to be crazy, and he comes out the Wild Thing, and people love that shit.
I bought for that. But Ambrose,
great.
I guess Dylan Broch is probably watching this maybe, and I would say Seth Rollins is probably my favorite out of the Shield that came out of that.
Don't worry, Seth is on this list. Dylan just might not agree with where he is.
All right, we'll go back to you for 20.
For number 20. All right, let me dig my figure out here because I got back to back.
And that's what we're trying to do here, people. We're gonna give you you're gonna see some interesting figures here tonight.
It's true. I primarily have new ones in boxes, and Dan has loose ones from my entire life. So next up, coming in right above Jon Moxley, is one Seth freaking Rollins. We were just talking about him.
He's going nuts right now.
Yeah, he's probably offended that I just called Seth Rollins a number 20. But at the end of the day, Seth Rollins, I also feel, is the best member out of the Shield. Because, like I said, Dean Ambrose had a very lackluster run. And I honestly don't care for Roman Reigns. I just don't. I don't see
still to this day.
I still don't. He's been better as a heel, but I'm not 10 years down the road. I'm not going to be like, man, you remember that Roman Reigns match? No, I'll be talking about Seth Rollins matches. I'm convinced Seth Rollins could do what Omega does and put on a 5-star match with a broomstick. But I mean, Seth doesn't even need a world title to be a top star in WWE. That's how much this man is over with the crowd, be it face or heel. He's had some wild gimmicks these last couple of years, and he's made every single one of them work. Seth Rollins is a worker. This man is a performer. This man will put his body on the line. And also, Seth is one of the safest workers out there today.
Unless it was 2015.
We're not talking about the Sting incident. All right, we're going to ignore
John
that.
Cena too.
We're gonna ignore pre-2016 Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins now is a very safe worker for one main reason. He had to go inside Hell in a Cell and put on a match with a man with a torn pectoral muscle, and
there was a lot of trust there.
and still put on a 5-star match. All right. And he did, and if you look, there's little nuances of what he's doing. That he was protecting the shit out of Cody. All right. And he had to. He had to. Cody's hurt. Cody is real life hurt. And let me tell you, people are like, "Oh, it's got to be a work. It's got to be a work." Well, let me tell you, WWE must have hired the best makeup artist in the game if that was a work, because that looked horrible.
He was hurt. He was hurt bad.
Seth Rollins protected that man in a match that's designed to be brutal and hurt people. He still managed to protect him with those spots.
And two guys I think are buddies.
Yeah,
I think Seth was a dusty guy.
Yeah, like that's the thing, and I don't and that's the thing. That's the other reason Seth Rollins breaks this list for me. This man's psychology is next level. When he faced Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble, how did he come out? Sierra, Hotel, Indigo, Echo, Lima, Delta,
that was awesome.
Shield.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Came out in his Shield gear through the crowd, just getting Roman's head. When he faced Cody, what did he wear? He wore the dusty dots. When he faced Ray, what did he wear? Not Ray, Dominic. When he faced Dominic, what did he wear?
Rey Mysterio's gear from Halloween Havoc, 96, I want to say.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool.
So this man has psychology just through his ring gear. Like, I'm sorry, this man is top tier for me.
I'm down with that. I will say my number 20 is dun 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 Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. R.I.P. It was painful when he died, but man, I don't think a lot of people meant so much to wrestling than he did. You know, he went from the Diamond Stud in WCW to know what to do with him. He went to WWF and became Razor Ramon. And I remember he was just, you know, he was like Scarface meets wrestling type of gimmick. And that's what he ran with. But then he got over as a babyface. And then obviously he meant a lot to WCW because they were like, well, how do we get you back? How do we get Kevin Nash over here? So not only did he do great things with WWF and being that Razor Ramon character, which was phenomenal, but then he goes over to WCW and he's just, the Outsiders were like one of the coolest things that's ever happened because, you know, as a wrestling fan, we never actually thought there could be a crossover like that. And he knocked it out the park. He really did. He was the first one to show up. It wasn't Nash that first showed up. It was Hall. You know, so, I mean, and he had some of the best matches, you know. I mean, I know he was buddies with Shawn Michaels, but those ladder matches, you know, in 94 and 95, phenomenal. And just the way he could talk, you know, it was always like Chico. And, you know, like, I have to have Scott Hall on my list for sure.
I'll save my opinions because Scott is a little higher up on the list for me. So.
Oh, really?
Just to keep some content for a little later in the show, I'll save my opinion for Scott Hall.
Well, I will go back to 19, and I don't care what anybody says about this. My 19 is the franchise Shane Douglas, cut up in music. Man, Shane Douglas when I was in 8th grade was everything. I liked him more than Stone Cold at the time. Shane Douglas in ECW was everything that he ever could have been anywhere else, but he never had the chance to do it. I mean, he come out to Perfect Strangers, that he made me believe. Like I get it. I'm an ECW mark. We talked about this off air, Josh.
Yeah.
Man, Shane Douglas was my favorite wrestler in 98, 99. I couldn't wait to put on ECW on Channel 14 on the Spanish channel at 12:30 at night because I wanted to see the franchise Shane Douglas. And it's disappointing to see that he never got to be what he wanted. But man, he was great. I dare anybody to question his mic work or his in-ring work at that time. I disagree with how WWF used him and WCW. Shane Douglas, the franchise, the franchise, the fucking franchise is what he would say. Uh, he's one of the best ever, and it's a shame that he never got to hit what I think he could have done.
I can understand that.
It's a frustrating thing because wrestling's, it's subjective. And I really disagree with the way he was using WWF and WCW. ECW, we got to see him shine to what he really could be, and it sucks because he's one of my all-time favorite wrestlers for sure. Who do you have at 19?
Number 19. Number 19, I have The Rock.
Okay.
So just a little higher. I mean, you gotta think. Again, I came from that era. The first time I really got to see The Rock like compete was the once, twice in a lifetime match with him and John Cena. And obviously my older brother watched wrestling, so I heard the names. I know all about The Rock and all that. The Rock in his short time did do a lot for the WWE. He became synonymous with the name. He catapulted himself into Hollywood from WWE. He was really the first guy to really, really do that. Of course we had wrestlers that were like, "Oh, hey, I'm in a movie," but Rock's like, "Nah, how you doing? I'm an A-list celebrity now, and I got my start in the damn WWE when I rolled up with $7 in my pocket and a turtleneck and chain." Anyway, The Rock is synonymous with the WWE. A lot of people were like, "Oh, he's the greatest of all time." I respectfully disagree with that.
I agree. I don't agree.
Obviously, he's coming in 19 on my list, and I'd have to say probably at least, without counting, probably 10 of these names are WWE guys, and that means there's 10 more guys that I consider better than The Rock. So, but Rock does deserve to be in this 25 list, so he comes in 19 for me.
I just want to say, anybody commenting there, if you do comment on my personal page, for whatever reason, I don't get the notifications. So just try to comment on Let Freedom Ring page or on YouTube. I do see the comments coming through, but I can't see them as I navigate through this. Who's 18 for you, Josh?
18 for me. This is where I might get some backlash. Because over The Rock, I have one Dolph Ziggler.
Oh, okay. I respect this.
So Dolph Ziggler, and I'm let me put on for this man for a minute. If you need a star to look good, you're pairing him with Dolph Ziggler. You want somebody to get over, you're pairing him with Dolph Ziggler. You want them to look dominant, you're pairing him with Dolph Ziggler. You want someone to sell his damn ass off like Shawn Michaels in the 90s, you're putting him with Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler can make anybody and any finish look like $1 million. Dan, you and I talked about
We can see it, Crayon dude. As long as you're commenting on the Let Free Ring page, I will see it. My personal one, they're not coming through. Sorry, Josh, I didn't mean to.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So, because you and me talked about it when Dolph and Braun had that match. Did I not tell you that Dolph being the one that sold that spear legitimately made me believe that Braun Breaker had the best spear in the game right now? That spear looked like $1 million, but it's because Dolph Ziggler is the one that sold it.
But you know what, though? I knew that when he faced Goldberg. Yeah. Nobody's better than him at that.
Yeah, nobody. Dolph Ziggler is a selling machine. It's a crime that this man has not had multiple world title reigns. And I mean multiple world title reigns. It is a shame that this man is not consistently a main eventer. Because this man will go out and put on, and you will hear me say this again today, this man can go out and put on a 5-star match with a broomstick. He could.
When he won the world title after WrestleMania 29, I went to WrestleMania 29. I go the night after. That was one of the loudest pops ever when he beat Del Rio. All of a sudden it goes, "I'm here to show the world," and that place went freaking crazy. Goldberg is the best. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Second is pretty.
I just got it. All right. What about Jamie Lynn?
Yeah. Yeah, unbelievable. I will say so. My next one at uh at 18 is Bubba Ray Dudley, Bully Ray. Um, not just what he did in ECW, because that'd be simple. You know, he was a tag team wrestler. Why I love Bully Ray, and I know a lot of people get angry with him over things he says on podcasts now. Like I think they're like, well, I can't believe he said this. I'm like, did you were you alive in the '90s? Like, do you know who this is? That guy could draw so much heat in ECW. It was unbelievable. I mean, I remember watching Heat Wave '99, and he almost started a goddamn riot. So it wasn't just his mic skills, but what I found with Bubba Ray was he evolved. And when I saw him in TNA when he became Bully Ray and showed that he could do it on his own, it solidified everything I ever thought about him. They made him world champion. They wouldn't have done that in WWF or WWE,
Never.
but he proved he could actually do it.
I would have loved to see the Bully Ray character in WWE in that last run. I would have
Well,
loved to see it.
and they just balked on it. You know, that's a Vince thing. Or I'd have to assume that's a Vince thing because he actually showed in TNA he could really do it. He could be world champion, and he was good as a singles competitor. Devon was great too, but Devon needed him. He didn't need Devon.
No. Devon, and mad respect to Devon Dudley, but Devon was the Genetti.
Yeah.
It's clear that Devon was the Genetti, and you know I've had like some issues with things Bully Ray has said, but you know Bully Ray is also the same man that says something that really resonated with me, that Ric Flair does not hold that 16-time world title record. John Cena holds it when we're talking about WWE champion. Because Ric Flair is not a 16-time WWE champion. John
No,
Cena
yeah,
is.
that's where it gets hazy. Yeah.
So when you're
I agree.
talking in the realm of the WWE, it's John Cena's record to break, not Rick's.
Shout out to Crayon Dude. He's right. Like, Josh, I don't know if you've ever seen Heat Wave '99. Crayon Dude and me are about the same age. That's it went. He even said, he goes, "Did I cross the line? Yeah, I cross the line every night." And he did cross the line that night. I've talked about this on several podcasts. Where Heatwave '99, I could not believe what Bubba Ray was actually saying out of his mouth. It was crazy. You couldn't do that now. And Crown Dude, we're not going to repeat what was said there because I like my show. I don't want it to be canceled.
Right to
So
cancel.
we're
2022.
gonna refrain from what Bubba Ray said there. But dude, that was when wrestling was awesome. They weren't afraid about being canceled. They were doing what they had to do. And they generating heat. And sometimes people think there's cheap heat. Yeah, maybe. But at the same time, it is entertainment, you know. So, all right. Does it go back to me? I think here.
I believe it goes back to you because I think I started that one.
So my number 17 is the homicidal, genocidal, death-defying Sabu. Yes, I'm an ECW mark. Anybody watching this,
It's showing.
they've probably picked up on this. Man, everything that Sabu did, I mean, every match was unbelievable. I mean, taking barbed wire and pulling it out of his bicep. He was the heart and soul of ECW. I really do believe that, and I enjoyed everything he did. When he came to WWE for that short ECW, which was a fraudulent ECW, I really want him to beat Cena. I really did. I knew it was never going to happen, but like Sabu to me, that's someone, and there's probably been opportunities for me to meet him. Sabu was just, I love Sabu. It was just, dun, dun, like I was a big Sabu fan. When he did come to WWE, I did buy his T-shirt. It was the first shirt I wanted to buy, and I bought that real quick. So. Yeah, Sabu
It was blatantly obvious. If that man died in the ring, that's probably how he wanted to go out.
He was crazy, but it was if you were really into that in that era, like you didn't know what he was going to do next. What table could he do this with? Oh, he doesn't care about barbed wire. He doesn't care about chair shots. Like he was death defying, homicidal, suicidal. Like all that stuff they said before he came into the ring was true. So yeah, big shout out to Crown Dude on that. Who do you have at 17, Josh?
So at 17, we're kind of in the same ballpark,
Okay,
just
all
different
right,
show.
okay.
So you talked about the homicidal, suicidal, genocidal,
Death defying,
death-defying
Sabu.
Sabu from ECW. Well, at 17, I got another ECW guy.
Crayon Dude, that's not the Iron Sheik. The original Sheik is who
Yeah,
he's related to. Sorry about that, Josh. Go ahead.
you're good. You're good. So he is an ECW guy, and he was known by one name there, known by another in WWE, and another in WWE, and another in WWE, and then his real name in WWE. Obviously, I'm talking about the man with the four faces, Mick Foley, comes in at 17 for me. This man, you want to talk about homicidal, suicide. I honestly God think Mick Foley might have been suicidal in the 90s. I mean, if anybody is watching a Hell in a Cell match between him and Undertaker, we all can agree that man had a death wish that night because he kept coming back for more. We're like, bro, stop. Like, it's good. We are fine. You do not have to get back in this ring. This man was like, nope, I don't even know where I am right now, but I got a match. Like, no, like, this man got thrown off the cell, put through the cell. Like, bro, calm down. We don't want to see a death on TV. Like, we're
I watched
good,
that
bro.
live, Josh. I watched that live. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Like, this man is insane. And also, it kind of relates to why I don't understand people are like, oh, this Ezekiel gimmick's stupid. Man, look, Mick Foley entered the Royal Rumble 3 freaking times under 3 different gimmicks, and we were all like, yeah, this is awesome. Now y'all hating? Chill.
I love everything to do with
Dude Love,
Ezekiel.
Cactus Jack, Mankind, Mick Foley. All 4 gimmicks were great. I loved Stone Cold's reaction when the Dude Love thing happened, and Stone Cold's just like, Stone Cold's there like, is this jackass serious? Like,
That was
I love looking back at that because that's probably one of that from an era where they consistently made hilarious jokes. That was one of the funniest things to me because it wasn't even something someone said. Stone Cold was just sitting in the ring looking at him like,
is this really happening? But they did the interview thing so freaking perfect with him, and they did it with Goldust too. Like they knew that they had to get more real at that time. WCW was kicking their butt, and they're like, "How do we make these characters more real?" Like it was unbelievable. Mr. and Mrs. Foley's baby boy. Like it was, dude. It was what a time to be alive. WWE Attitude Era would not exist. Yeah, I agree. Crayon Dude is straight on here.
there is a core of people from the Attitude Era where if they were not in WWE, Attitude Era would have never happened. WCW very well could have won the Monday Night Raw.
I don't want to give a spoiler or anything like that, but Mick Foley is much higher on my list, which will come through. We're doing 2 and 2. So Josh, who's 16? Who's 16 for you?
16 for me. One of your honorable mentions. The phenomenal AJ Styles. This man comes in at 16 because for a man who made his name on the independent circuit, be it Ring of Honor, TNA, Impact, whatever we want to call it, New Japan, whatever, this man made a name out there. And, there was a long period of time, probably 2001 to like probably 2011, 2012. I don't know exactly what may have sparked the interest in independent wrestling all of a sudden in 2012. I'll probably talk about it around the top 5. But there was a huge time period where it was like, if you want to watch pro wrestling, you were watching WWE. Plain and simple. AJ Styles made such a name for himself on these lesser companies, using the quotes here. He made such a name for himself that he came out at the Royal Rumble in 2016 for his debut, and the crowd freaking blew the roof off that place. Because they didn't even need an introduction of who this man was. They knew. They knew this was a phenomenal talent. This man had stellar runs with the WWE title.
The music was just off. The music was just off because no one knew his music. Even Roman Reigns was like, you know.
Everyone was like, "Who is this?" And then they saw him come out with the hood, and
Like,
then they flipped
oh
the
well.
hood up, and and everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's AJ!" Like no one would have ever thought we'd see AJ Styles in WWE, and when it happened, people flipped. AJ Styles is one of the best talents in WWE still today. I
Greatest, one
feel
of the
like this
greatest of all
man,
time.
he is, he is. That's why he's number 16 on this list. I feel like he deserves another world title, honestly.
It's hard to put. So like, I got into AJ in like 2004 when I was watching TNA on uh, Fox Sports Net. Now, I think we all know now he actually wrestled in WCW for a hot minute, right before they're
Yeah.
going out of business. And man, he really was what he said. He was phenomenal. And it sucks it took so long for them to get him on there. Um, I love AJ Styles. He just doesn't crack my top 25, unfortunately, but I am a huge fan. I have multiple AJ Styles uh, merchandise and everything like that. So,
And if anyone wants to see a good AJ Styles match, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, triple threat match. Just look it up. You don't even need to know the show. You don't need to know the year. Just look up the match. I assure you, the first result will be the match I'm talking about.
Crowder brings up a really good point. TNA introduced me to AJ, which I understand, and then he did leave. He went to New Japan. 2013, they couldn't get on the same page about the contracts, and he left.
Yeah,
And that's when WWE was like, "Oh, this guy can really do it." I'm like, "You didn't know this in like 2005, 2004, oh
Bullet Club.
06?" Yeah, it's kind of annoying. That's one of the things that's really annoying about Vince McMahon is like, man, he was good way before 2016,
Yeah,
like
that
12
man.
years earlier.
Yeah, that man could have easily came. Honest to God, that man could have potentially came in not too long after the invasion angle and tore
Yeah,
it up.
nope,
He could
they
have.
missed the boat, but thank God there was Jeff. You know, and a lot of people, and Jeff Jarrett's not even on my honorable mentions, and he should be. If there wasn't Jeff Jarrett making that company, these guys are never found.
If we were talking like a top 5 promotions list, Jeff Jarrett would 100% be on that list.
Yeah, he's Jeff Jarrett's really important to the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Crown was saying his 2017 match with, yeah, I agree. And Lesnar, here's the thing, Crown dude, we want to see Lesnar face these people. We want to see these matches.
Very underrated match. AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho at WrestleMania a few years back.
Yeah, and it was,
Very underrated match. That was actually
and
a
I
really good
knew that
match.
and Jericho needed to win that match. I thought at the time, but all right, so we're gonna go with number 16. Number 16 for me is Viva La Raza. I lie, I cheat, I steal. Eddie freaking Guerrero. And let me tell you this, Josh, this is a figure I could not wait to buy. I could not wait to buy this.
Why don't you buy the shirt?
At the time, I was a poor college kid. I couldn't afford it, but now I can buy his figure. Um, Eddie Guerrero. It sucks. What happened? He died so young. 30. Jesus Christ, I'm almost 38, so let's hope I don't die. But
Nah, Dan the Man is immortal.
yeah, we love you. We love you, Crayon dude. Yes, I agree. Slapnuts there, and but I will say this about Eddie Guerrero. I got to watch his career evolve. I remember, I bring up Benoit, and I know a lot of people get pissed off with like Chris Benoit references, right? But I was a WCW Saturday Night kid. I was a WWF guy, right? But on Saturday nights, I'd watch the Braves play baseball, and I would watch WCW Saturday Night. And there was a match with Guerrero and Benoit in like '95, where I was like, I'd never seen a match like that before. Like it was so. This is before false finishes became like the thing. You know how it is now? I'd never seen anything like that. These guys, they were just going back and forth, back and forth. Who's going to win this match? I don't know. Who are these guys? And I fell in love with Benoit and Guerrero that night. And then to keep seeing the progression of their characters, and Benoit joins the Horsemen, and Eddie keeps doing his thing. He makes the LWO, and then they go to WWE, and they're doing their own thing, and you get to see like Eddie Guerrero become more of like who Eddie Guerrero actually was. And then I'll tell you one thing. Like there was a time I wasn't loving wrestling. Right, I didn't really want to. I didn't care to watch. And then Eddie Guerrero won the WWE title. I wasn't really, and I was like, Eddie Guerrero can be champion. I was like, Eddie Guerrero is champion, and then Benoit won too. But like Eddie Guerrero winning the WWE title made me a avid viewer all over. It made me and I didn't take a long time off from watching wrestling, but that made me like hooked all over again because I was like, oh my god, Eddie Guerrero is the WWE champion,
One
and
of the best matches of all time.
I couldn't have been more happy. Like I was like Eddie fucking Guerrero. It was awesome. It's something I'll never really. It's hard to put into words. That's why when people are like, I don't hate Chris Benoit. I think he's scum for what he did. But man, did I love Eddie and Benoit? Yeah, I did. I really did. His match with Rey Mysterio. Yes, yeah,
One of the greatest matches of all time.
Absolutely,
hands down, one of the greatest.
I love Eddie Guerrero. I always loved Eddie Guerrero, and man, he was taken from us way too young, way too young.
And I'll save my opinions for Eddie for a higher pick.
Oh, okay. All right. Who do you have at 16?
At 15.
All right, 15 for yep.
Yeah, 15 for me. So at number 15, and Dan, I don't know if you watched the last episode of BTP, but there was a nice unboxing at the beginning. So number 15 for me is Kenny by God Omega.
Okay.
Just to be clear, this is the Shop AEW exclusive one. Nice and pretty. So the reason Kenny comes at 15 for me, here's a man who's never really been on WWE television.
No.
He was in WWE a little bit for developmental, left. This is a man who made his name and has his name outside of the realm of WWE. This is a man who can go toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns for the PWI number one wrestler of the year, which is considered one of the greatest awards a wrestler can get. If you're number one, that means out of all the wrestlers in the world, they thought you were the best. And Kenny Omega is the guy who can go toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns right now. And still, with Kenny not even wrestling, if you've seen a Kenny Omega match, I'm probably up to 5 now saying this, but Kenny's the one who did it and made it work on this list. Kenny Omega is the type of guy who can have a 5-star match with a broomstick. He had a 5-star match with a blow-up doll. Think about that. There's one person working this match, and somehow still, it was a 5-star match. Think about it. Think about Kenny and the fact that Kenny Omega for the longest time did something that a lot of performers do not do. Baron Corbin is the only other person I know in recent history that has done this. He protected the one-winged angel for such a long time. Hangman last year was the first person to ever kick out of the one-winged angel. Think about that. How many wrestlers protect their finishers? How many wrestlers are like, no, they're not. They can kick out of literally anything else. I don't want them kicking out of my finish. My finish needs to be protected. Finishers used to be finishers in wrestling. You hit them with that, they're done. They're not kicking out. They're done. They're tapping out. Whatever your finisher was, they're done. That's it. Now, how many curb stomps does Seth Rollins have to hit to put someone down?
The false finish thing has become a huge thing.
And like false finishes, I like a good false finish. Problem is, there's a lot of times when they're overplayed. You will hear me refer to Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar matches as finisher jamborees because I've called it every time. I'm like, well, we can predict the winner, but I feel like the more fun one is let's predict the count of the finishes. 4 spears, 5 F5s, 13 German suplexes, and 7 Superman punches. Like they're not protected. The one-winged angel, protected like crazy.
No, I like Kenny Omega. He's not in my top 25, but I'm a fan of his. You know, like, and Crown Dude has been saying a lot here. Yes, the stuff with China and Eddie were awesome. Kenny, that could be a match. If
I'm here
AEW could
for it.
ever pay Brock, I don't know if they could, but
Give me true Forbidden Door. Give me WWE versus AEW.
I'm for that.
Give me Kenny versus Brock. Have Kenny
Um,
hit Brock with the one winged angel. That's what I want to say. Just you heavy son of a bitch.
yeah, I don't know how that would go down, but yeah, they're both not on my list, so I don't know. Number 15 for me is You Think You Know Me. You Think You Know Me, Edge. And I think this has to be on anybody's list. I think this is Edge from WrestleMania 22
It is. It is in fact from
uh,
WrestleMania 22.
with Mick Foley. Man,
I'd like to think myself the foremost expert on that pay per view.
yeah, that's what got you into it.
Yeah, so
I will say this: I didn't have Christian as an honorable mention, and he should be. We put a lot of emphasis on Edge, but yeah, Edge was Edge. Like it wasn't like when he first came into WWF, it wasn't like I was all about him. It was, which is weird for me because you think about the timeline I like. It was his feud with Cena. It solidified me saying Edge is a top heel in the wrestling business, and that really showed what he actually could do. I remember being in the Boston Garden rooting against John Cena, the hometown guy, because I want Edge to beat him, which is crazy, you know.
yeah, you had Death Wish.
No, everybody, Cena was getting booed that whole night.
Yeah, that's right. Boston don't like him either.
No one was big on Cena in like that year, or that 2005, 2006. They like the heels, you know. But yeah, who do you have at 15?
At number 15, I have. All right, give me a second. All right. I feel like we're getting numbers jumbled up here. I'm on number 14.
Oh, did I skip over? Oh no.
Yeah, because Omega was my 15.
Okay, so I went 15, so you're on 14.
Yeah, so I'm on 14. All right, so number 14 for me is who I regard as the best technical wrestler in the game right now. Sadly out on injury right now. Summer of injuries, 2022. It's taken plenty of good ones from us. But no, I would have to say Bryan Danielson comes in at number 14 for me. If for no other reason, in 2022, flips and super kicks make the game, but Daniel Bryan has that mat game on lock. He keeps it true to wrestling. Like he's bringing back a really old style of wrestling, so he doesn't hurt himself as much. And honestly, I'm here for it. It's the same reason I like FTR so much. In a world where everyone's like, "Oh, here's a electric chair tag team finish where I jump off and do a corkscrew shooting star press clothesline into your throat." Daniel Bryan's like, "Nah, I'm just gonna stomp your head in. Nah, I'm just gonna choke you out. Like that's what I'm gonna do. You do you. I'm just gonna. Now when you land, I'm just gonna stomp your head in. It's fine." Daniel Bryan has consistently been one of the best wrestlers in the game for a long time. I was sad to not get Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. at Forbidden Door. That made me sad. And yeah, Daniel Bryan made one of the Bella Twins say yes. You know who else he made say yes? The WWE Universe in 2014. I'll be damned if Daniel Bryan didn't manage to hijack a WrestleMania main event not once but twice.
Well, the whole writing on that was so bad. It was clearly Daniel Bryan's year, or CM Punk's year, or whoever. Picking Batista was really bad. It was really bad.
And they had such a poor reception of that the Yes movement got Daniel Bryan right in that main event and put that title right the hell on him. That's the kind of electricity Daniel Bryan brings, and Bryan Danielson still brings it.
I'll go with my 14, and he's a man called Sting. Sting is. I know y'all love the Crow Sting. I was a little Stinger growing up, and it was. There we go. It was all about that Sting. It was all about, and I get it. He was tag team partners with the Ultimate Warrior, and they were the Blade Runners. But man, when Sting's music would hit, he was like the Hulk Hogan of WCW before Hulk Hogan got to WCW. You know, it was Sting. It was all about Sting. And when he became Crow Sting, I still liked him, but I will always be a fan of Surfer Sting. Always. I loved his theme music. The lyrics were ridiculous too because it was like he does this, he does that. You know, like they were really ridiculous. But Sting's my guy. He's still wrestling to this day. I was, like I said, I was a little Stinger growing up, and I'm still a big fan of Sting. Who do you have at 14?
13.
Or oh yeah, sorry, 13.
All right, number 13. We're going to double back to your list because now coming in at number 13, I have one Razor Ramon, Scott Hall. Now, in case you all forgot at the beginning of this video, I was like, oh, I grew up in the Ruthless Aggression and blah, 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 blah. Yes, I did. So I missed Scott Hall's career. But you know what? As a Shawn Michaels fan, we'll get into that later. I was introduced to him through a very certain ladder match. And yeah, let me tell you, I looked at a lot into his career. And, you know, because of how much I did see of Scott Hall, every time like a new kid says, hey, yo, I don't think, oh, they're talking slang. I'm sitting here like, oh, Razor Ramon. Like, I can't unhear it. If you say, hey, yo, if you type out, hey, yo, I'm thinking, hey, yo. Like, I'm going back to Razor Ramon. And, you know, it's not just about what he did in the ring. To me, Scott Hall is at number 13 because of what he did behind the scenes. You know, when X-Pac was out hurt, Scott Hall was wearing that 6-ball shirt to make sure 6 stayed relevant. Scott Hall really vouched for younger talent. He was a great guy to meet in person. I've heard the stories. This man really genuinely cared about fans. Like, I heard one story where like they had him signing autographs up on a platform, and like this older lady who had like hurt her leg or something was like walking up, wanting to meet him, and he saw her, and no one asked him to. He got up from his table, walked down them steps, and met her. He was like, "No, you don't need to be climbing you don't need to be climbing those stairs." Like, this was a genuine man.
I agree.
And Scott Hall did more for the wrestling business than we may ever know, for sure.
Now I'm with you, and I think it deserves to be on any list. Period. I will go with my 13. Maybe this will spark debate a little bit. Crayon Dude's talking about. Whenever I tell people about Sting, they think I'm talking about the same. Yes,
Same.
I don't.
I'm just like, the wrestler's better. Sorry, Brady B.
But my number 13, the innovator of violence, Tommy freaking Dreamer. I'm an ECW mark. I'm never gonna lie about that. Tommy Dreamer. I met him. I got to meet him. He was the hero of ECW. I wish his title reign lasted longer than it did. I know he didn't want that, but Tommy Dreamer, man, everything about him, I loved. I really did. Tommy Dreamer was the hero of ECW. He was the MVP of ECW. I have somewhere. I actually framed a picture of him winning the ECW title, even though he had it for like 5 minutes before he lost to Justin Credible. Tommy Dreamer is just one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. I love what I know. A lot of people give him flack over what happened with the
Plane Ride from Hell.
Yeah, whatever that show is.
Dark Side of the Ring.
Dark Side of the Ring. But man, Tommy Dreamer meant a lot to all of us, and I don't know if there's any more I can really say about that. I really love Tommy Dreamer.
Tommy Dreamer is great. He didn't crack my 25, but I do have a lot of love for Tommy. He does a lot still for wrestling behind the scenes. House of Hardcore, his promotion. He works backstage for Impact. This man has a mind for wrestling that was never going to be appreciated in WWE. So I'm glad it's being appreciated somewhere else.
I love Tommy Dreamer, and I don't care. I don't care what people say about him now. I thought it was unfair, and yeah. Who do you got? Who do you got next, Josh? I think we're at 12.
Yeah, 12. So number 12, this one may or may not spark some debate. We'll see. I'm sure I have one up here that'll spark some debate. Coming in at number 12 for me would be one Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H. Triple H, he did not have the best career out of DX. Again, we'll touch on that in a little bit. But Triple H did have a really good career, and he's still doing a lot with WWE.
Nashville's own.
Nashville's own, sure. Triple H, multi-time world champion. One of the best performers that there's ever been. Yes, there's some stuff about him burying people and all that, and we'll touch on that a little later, too. Dropping very subtle hints on who may be in my top 5. But Triple H has a mind for wrestling that really shined through when he was heading up NXT Black and Gold. This man ran NXT, and it was the perfect model for what most of us want WWE to be. Sadly, it's gone. But Triple H has a mind for wrestling that anyone coming up in the business can really gain something from learning from him. And that's because of the experience he had. And, I can go through and tell you about the stuff I saw in person. There was the Triple H Randy Orton feud at WrestleMania 25 that was way outshadowed by another match on the card. There was, Triple H, John Cena, WrestleMania 22. Hey, how you doing? Another 22 reference. But I don't know if anything Triple H has done gets more credibility than his return from them torn quads. It's been referred to as they're planning on giving Cody Rhodes the Triple H treatment. Comes back from injury, wins the Royal Rumble, goes on, wins the title.
I remember when he won the title, though, after SummerSlam 99 and being like, a Nashua boy is the WWF freaking champion. It was crazy. It was crazy.
I don't have that feeling as a Delaware native.
Yeah.
We really don't have much. We have the Briscoes. The Briscoes. We got them to claim. But
we don't have much either. We literally have Triple H. He's literally from my hometown. That's pretty much where it ends.
the Briscoes are close to my hometown. Like maybe a 10-minute
ride. We'll go to number 12 here for me, and I think a lot of people are going to be shocked by this. They might think it's higher up, but Hulk Hogan. I know he's not in my top 10. And you would think that he would be because I was a little Hulkamaniac growing up. But like things evolved a little bit. But like when Hulk Hogan lost to The Undertaker at SummerSlam, not SummerSlam, Survivor Series 91, I cried my eyes out. I was only in like first grade. But Hulk Hogan, when growing up in my time, he was everything. I used to go to kindergarten with a Hulk Hogan lunchbox. No bullshit. I wish I knew where that was because it's so cool.
Probably worth some money.
Yeah, if I know where it is, but I don't know where it is. But no, I loved Hulk Hogan. I still am a Hulk Hogan fan, and in my opinion, not my favorites. That Hulk Hogan's probably the greatest wrestler of all time. But Terry Bollea is kind of a dirtbag.
Yeah, and see, that's kind of the thing. Hulk Hogan, I will tell you now, did not make my list. Because I truly believe in overshadowing. There's a reason Chris Benoit was not on my list. There's a reason Kurt Angle was so low on my list. I do believe that some things overshadow a man's career, and it takes away from how much you can say or that they're a favorite wrestler. You know what I mean? Hulk Hogan, pre all this BS, Hulk Hogan would have been on this list. He would have. But
See,
all the things that have happened in the last decade, I can't put him there anymore.
see, I can't take people off just for what happened outside of wrestling. That's like saying like I didn't like an acting performance because of what they did later. You know what
Oh
I mean?
well,
Like,
don't get it twisted because that plays into it. He certainly would have taken some spots from me. The main reason he's down there, his running Impact. I was not a
it
fan of him as an authority figure. That
should never hired him.
horrible performance he had against Sting, where he turned on Immortal and was like, "Oh, I'm hulking up." I'm saying, like, bro, get your walker, go sit down somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, this is too obvious that you are not you're not 80s 90s Hogan anymore. It's blatantly obvious. Hogan didn't make my list. That Impact run spoiled it. Like, had the Impact run not happened, he would have 100% been on my list. Had the personal incidents not happened, he would have 100% been on my list. If neither happened, he probably would have been top 5. But I couldn't put him on my list. I just could.
That's fair. That's fair. Who do you have at 11?
At number 11, I do have. So Hulk Hogan, his biggest match in his career is arguably his match against Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. Coming at number 11, I have a man who was in the other big match from WrestleMania 3, and that would be one Macho Man Randy Savage. So, again, I did not grow up watching Randy Savage, but I have seen plenty of his work. And it speaks volumes that Slim Jim is still putting out Slim Jim packages with his face on it. Because
It's true.
snap into a Slim Jim. Like, this man transcended wrestling. Like, his role in Spider-Man was phenomenal. He was there for like a whole 5 minutes. It was great. The Bone Crusher. Like, Macho Man transcended wrestling to a point that Jay Lethal, decades after Macho Man really like peaked, came in and did a Macho Man gimmick, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, Randy Savage." That's obviously who we're going with here. Randy Savage is one of the names that you have to have on a pro wrestling list. You have to, because this man, one of the most iconic images in wrestling history is him dropping an elbow on Ricky Steamboat. It's one of those iconic images. Like,
yeah, he has to be on your list.
has to.
He has to. For me, number 11 is rocking the Purple Panthers tights on this one. The Game, Triple H. I can't explain how. Oh wow, I can't. How proud I am of being from the same hometown as Triple H. I know there's been when DX was a big thing. When he first was Hunter Hearst Helmsley, it's kind of weird. Like I used to go to the bus stop, and this kid used to say that his sister, who was a lot older, they were spaced out quite a bit, was dating a wrestler in WCW, who was Jean Paul Levesque. That's who he was there, and I didn't believe him. Come to find out later, he was telling the truth. But then I found out who Triple H actually was. We found out he was from Nashua. Because I didn't like Hunter Hearst Helmsley. I did not. But once he found Shawn Michaels and he started to show the character that he could be, that's when I started to really be a big fan of his. And then when I found out he was from my hometown, I was like, oh, this is unreal. Triple H went on to be one of the best ever. He's not in my top 10 because it's a really hard top 10 to crack. But man, I love Triple H. I love everything he's done, and I'm so happy with all the stuff he's done over the years.
A lot of people say Shawn Michaels and Triple H made DX, but in reality, DX made Triple H.
Yeah,
had it not been for DX, would Triple H ever have been as big as he is? No.
Well, it took Shawn taking him in.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the first people to use this hand sign, Triple H probably
HBK!
Triple H probably would have even been in WWE in the 2000s, let alone running it.
I mean, I think he was that good. He just needed an opportunity, and the opportunity was Shawn Michaels.
The whole click thing really helped Hunter Hearst Helmsley break through that glass ceiling that he had on himself.
Without question. And it wasn't, yeah, and I don't give a shit what people say. It wasn't Hall, it wasn't Nash. It was connecting with Shawn. Michaels was the guy. And that's what got Triple H to the next level. And then Triple H showed everybody what he actually could do. Because he is phenomenal.
His and Shawn's match at SummerSlam 2002.
That brought Shawn back, you know.
Phenomenal match.
And if you listen to interviews, they were all going through tough times. Shawn Michaels was going through really tough times. And Triple H was the guy that was there for him. And I think they have a real friendship there. Yes, Crown Dude, I did. So now it was Nashville High School. We actually wrestled for the same team, Purple Panthers. Now you have Nashville North and Nashville South. But yes, me and Triple H did go to the same high school. He graduated in like 89 or maybe 88. I graduated in 2003. So true story. Shawn Michaels, Triple H. Yes, I agree. 100% agree. All right, Josh. We're in the top 10 now. This is getting real.
So
who do you have? Who do you have at 10?
This is probably gonna be the list that either you and me gonna really argue, or you and me really gonna be on the same page. Number 10, breaking the top 10. I don't know if you can have a top 10 without at least including the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yes, I agree.
Bret Hart, my God, like this man literally brought an entire family to WWE. Like Bret Hart is one of the best technical wrestlers of all time. You can't. I'm sorry. And we talked about it when we talked about Double or Nothing with all them sloppy sharpshooters. No one will ever do it better than Bret the Hitman Hart. People have tried. There are many imitators.
Or Scorpion Deathlock.
We don't talk about Scorpion Deathlock.
I have heard that Sting was doing it before Bret.
Oh, I'm sure it was, but
I don't know if anybody can quote that or verify that story. But
at the end of the day, Bret Hart has the best sharpshooter in my opinion.
Oh no,
Bret Hart had a lot, and you can't talk about wrestling without at least mentioning the Montreal Screwjob. Thank you, Crown Dude. You saw where that was heading.
Crown Dude, I will say 100%. A little bit of both. I think a little bit of both deserve the blame.
Mainly Vince. Sorry,
you could say that Bret had to do business, but at the same time, Bret did everything he was asked of. Shawn was a dickhole at the time. I don't know if anybody really screwed anybody, because at the same time, Bret went and got a bigger paycheck, which is what he deserved. He deserved a bigger paycheck. That's a tough one.
You want to talk about really sticking it to the WWE when Bret spit in Vince McMahon's face and then wrote out on TV WCW.
He was pissed. Yeah, he was pissed. He had a right to. I'm going to go with my number 10, which is I won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. Kurt Angle. And I will tell you something about Kurt Angle. I loved him immediately. I started wrestling when I was in 3rd grade, right? And I always knew there was a difference between professional wrestling and the wrestling I did. But when I'd see wrestlers that actually were like me, it made me like them more. And Kurt Angle, when he first came out, they said he was going to be the first real athlete in WWE. And I was like, oh, God, this is horrible. Like, this is so bad. Then he got a microphone in his hand at Survivor Series 99. And I went, oh, my God. Like, I understood wrestling. You know, I'm probably 14 this time. I understood that, like, there's gimmicks and stuff like that. And Kurt was the opposite of what we thought he was going to be. And it was the most perfect thing ever. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, Kurt Angle's this Olympic gold medalist heel. But then so that happens, right? And Kurt's winning all these matches. But then you watch him wrestle and go, he's unbelievable. So great wrestler, great heel, played the character right. Kurt Angle has to be on anybody's list. 3 eyes. Yes, Crayon, dude. Intelligence, integrity, intensity. But he made it so funny. He made it so funny when he would sell that. Like, he just understood wrestling. He really did. I don't know, what do you
That is
think,
true.
Josh?
I
Like,
mean, like I said earlier, had it not been for Kurt Angle's retirement tour, he probably would have been up around the same area for me.
he,
I'm not a fan of retirement tours. That's the only reason he was so low.
which I understand, but I just gotta say, like, man, just speaking of Kurt Angle, he got it. He got it. And he was not a wrestling fan before that, but he understood what this actually is. It's entertainment. And I don't think anybody nailed it more than him. It's true, Milk. All right, Josh. Who do you have at number 9?
Number 9. Down to 5 figures. I'm about to show the next one. Number 9 is the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Now, I know what people might be thinking. Oh my god, how can you put Cody Rhodes top 10? Blah, 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 blah. This is a man who left WWE and looked at Vince and said, "Watch me." And he made Vince watch. When was the last time Vince hopped on his jet and went to a performer's house to try to recruit him? Cody Rhodes had Vince McMahon at his house negotiating his contract. Cody Rhodes left the WWE after being handed a bullshit gimmick that was never going to get over no matter how hard he tried, because let's be real, great value gold dust does not sit well. That gimmick was overplayed. There was no coming back from it. Cody left. What did Cody do? Did he go take a bunch of indie bookings? Did he go wrestle for little no-name company? No. This
I
man,
met him. I got to meet him.
Ring of Honor world champion, competed in New Japan, helped found the WWE's biggest competition today, AEW. Put on banger after banger after banger, 3-time TNT champion. Cody Rhodes went out and made a name for himself. And now he's come back to the WWE and is the biggest threat to Roman Reigns' title. How do you do that? The simple answer is the talent was always there. Just they kept it in a box and didn't let you open it.
They gave us the talent before. And then they pigeonholed him into the Stardust thing, which never. I don't know why they did that. I don't know why.
Stardust. Let's be real. Let's be real, Dan. You and me, we both like Cody Rhodes. I think we can both agree with this. The Stardust gimmick never happened. Never happened.
Should have been. I thought it was
there was a black hole in WWE history with the tag team titles and all. It just never happened.
Dude, I thought that was going to be like 3 weeks of television.
That's what I'm saying.
I thought it was going to be about 3
go?
weeks of television. It just kept going. He had the right to leave, and we all love Cody Rhodes. Big fan. He doesn't break my top 25. Maybe another decade, maybe he will. But I'm with you, dude. He what were they? I don't know what they were thinking. I will go with my number 9.
Dude, why?
I'll go with my number 9, and you've already talked about him, and I don't think there's any more good things we can say about this wrestler. But Randy Macho Man Savage. What do I say? He was so goddamn good. Perfectionist. Ooh, yeah. Elizabeth, I love you. Like, Savage was the man. I got to say at an indie show one time, Lenny Poffo was there, his brother, and I just yelled. And we all have we throw around the GOAT word a lot, right? Like, who's the greatest of all time? And Lenny was talking about his brother, and I just got into this moment. I go, greatest of all time. And he goes, yes, thank you. Because Randy Savage is debatably the greatest of all time. Perfectionist, great matches, great promos. Diamond Dallas Page, who should have been on my, again, honorable mentions, has a career because someone like Randy Savage cared about his career. They were going to have this match. He goes, you know what? And Page talks about this. He goes, I think I want to take the Diamond Cutter tonight. That guy cared about the wrestling business. And I loved Randy Savage, especially as a kid. I really did. And for that, he's in my top 10. Number 9. Who you got number 8, Josh?
Number 8, I got someone you had mentioned on your list a little earlier. And that would be Viva La Raza, Eddie Guerrero.
Gotta have him.
Eddie had a phenomenal career, constant bangers. And that shows today in 2022, 17 years after he passed? 17 years.
Long. Yeah.
There are people born the year he passed that are almost adults now. And commentators don't even have to say it. If someone gets on that top rope and goes like this and delivers a frog splash, you know who they're alluding to. If they hit more than one suplex and they roll over and stand up, you know they're about to hit the Three Amigos. Rey Mysterio, to this day, like we saw this past Monday on Raw, still plays up Eddie's lie, cheat, and steal gimmick every once in a while. When Finn walks in the ring with a chair and Rey's just like, I've been hit.
I love Rey too. Like, he should have been in my honorable mentions too. God, there's so many.
Eddie Guerrero did so much for this business that people take little tidbits of things he did, and we know who they're referencing just by them doing it. Eddie Guerrero has to be on the top 25 list out of anyone's list.
100% agree. Couldn't agree more. I will go with my number 8, which is Woo! The Nature Boy! Styling and profiling. Ric Flair.
The man that consistently chases John Cena's world title record.
And I mean, and again, I know like there's been stuff that's come out. Ric Flair, man, I remember when he came to WWF. So like when I first started watching wrestling, he came to WWF. So I started watching 91. That's when Flair came over. So I never knew his past. But when he came to WWF, it was like he was a big deal. He was a really big deal. And I was like, who's this guy? Like he's Ric Flair, like. And I remember he had the gold belt, right? He brought that on television, which he owned the rights to the belt, which I found out years later, like why he was able to do that or whatever. But I will say this: I love Ric Flair, man. He made me cry when Undertaker beat the Hulk Hogan at Survivor Series. But once I get to know who Ric Flair really was, you got to appreciate him. And then he went back to WCW, and let's just call out Eric Bischoff how we want to. When he wasn't booking him and they kept him off TV, what was that Southern audience saying, Josh? We want Flair. Yeah, like
they wanted Rick. Like that's the thing. WCW really shafted themselves in the end. Like Ric Flair, he did not break my top 25 for reasons we all know. I'm not even going to get into it on air. But he didn't break my top 25, but he is an honorable mention for me. There's only been one time I've really ever cried in wrestling. Again, get into that later. But I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and say my heart didn't break a little at the end of WrestleMania 24 when Rick looked Shawn in the eyes and went like this and asked for the super kick to end it.
That's television right there.
And Shawn looked at him and said, I'm sorry, I love you, and then done. End of career. When We already talked about the retirement tours, so. But no, I mean, Ric Flair is definitely an honorable mention. You know, his gimmick does transcend wrestling. You know, we've seen a lot of people try to like be the Nature Boy and
Never gonna happen.
Charlotte Flair, and Great Value Ric Flair gimmick. No, Ric Flair is definitely one of the best. He's not on my 25 favorites, but if you ask me who's in the conversation for greatest of all time, I'd have to put Ric Flair in that list.
Woo! All right, who do you have at number 7?
Coming in at number 7, I have the true holder of the 16-time World Championship record, John Cena. John Cena comes in at number 6 for me. Again, Ruthless Aggression, PG era. Who ran that time period, ladies and gentlemen? It's pop quiz. I'm sure you'll get it right. You're right. It's John frickin' Cena. John Cena he's been a standard bearer for WWE for a very long time. You want to be a top guy, you got to go through Cena to get there. It's like that even today. You really want to be a top guy, you're going to want to win over John Cena. It's just how it is. Cena hasn't been full-time with WWE in a few years now. But you really want to get somebody over? Let him get a win over John. It'll happen. John Cena is a 16-time WWE World Champion. For that reason, I say the 16-time world title record is John's. Because if you're talking in the scope of the WWE, that's John's record. Ric Flair's a 2-time WWE champion.
Yeah, it all depends on what you count as world champions.
See that. So where I go with this, and honestly, Bully Ray is actually the one that said it first, so it makes a lot of sense.
Who is a world champion in another company?
Yeah. If you count other company title reigns, then Team 3D has the most tag team title reigns out of any tag team that's ever been in WWE.
But Bully Ray is also a one-time world champion in only one company.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
So, since WWE doesn't acknowledge outside titles, the Ric Flair is only a 2-time champion. They don't like acknowledging other companies' title reigns. So Ric Flair doesn't hold that 16 time anymore. It is John Cena.
But hold on a second here, because they do hold the WCW lineage.
Yeah, WCW lineage.
And which comes with that is the NWA lineage.
That's questionable though, because NWA then existed
you're saying they still exist. But that branch of NWA went into WCW.
Yes. However, in the scope of the WWE today, they don't count.
But it depends on they own that lineage.
They do own the lineage. I'm not going to disagree with that at all. The problem is, back then, they didn't own the lineage. All of a sudden, they own the lineage. Now he's a 16-time world champion. Look, if he didn't win it under your banner, then either treat it one way or treat it the other.
But he technically did because they bought it.
Later on, they bought it. He didn't win it while under the WWE banner. WWE does acknowledge outside world title wins. Just because they own it, now they want to acknowledge it. AJ was a former world champion coming in. Never acknowledged.
But they don't own that company.
Tyler Black. Not yet. But what I'm getting at is what all that has in common here is the fact that those titles at the time were not won under the WWE banner. They were won outside. Yes, Vince would ultimately go on to win the WCW championship. But here's the thing. Ric Flair had to be in multiple companies to do that. John was in one.
No, I get that.
Only ever been in WWE.
No, I think Cena might.
For me, it's much more impressive to win 16 world titles within one company than it is to win them between 2, or 3, or 5, or 7. So to me, it's John Cena's record to break. Everyone else is in the conversation is a 14-time, 15-time, 16-time WWE champion. So to me, it's John Cena's record to break.
I'm fine with that. I will say, though, I do believe the lineage should carry over if they bought the company.
I think the lineage does. But you can't sit here and say it's Ric Flair's record when John won 16 world titles in WWE.
in a company that had 2 world titles.
Well, Rick won 16 different titles. Like, the only 2 of them were WWE.
But do you count everything? Man, this is a crazy debate. We could go on for this all night.
Yeah, we could.
I just have to. Is it okay if we take a short break? We're gonna get to our top fives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have to?
I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm at 6 left.
Okay, I think I have 7. Because all right.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a short break. I've had a very long day. I will be right back, and we're gonna end this. And I feel like me and Josh, we're gonna get to some of these top fives are gonna be kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
all right, quick intermission. I will be right back. We'll be back in. Josh is already back. All right, we're good.
I was
So,
cleaning up the display figures, putting some of them back up.
we apologize, audience. Sometimes we're running a little. We're running pretty much what I thought. I knew it'd be kind of long because we had a lot to talk about, but yeah, sometimes the people on the stream yard have to use the restroom, so we're going
Every
on
once in a
that.
while. Every once in a while.
But at number 7, I will say this, and I don't have a figure for this, and you're probably shocked. I think you do actually, because we've seen it
I
earlier.
do. Let's. Yeah, here he is.
The voice of the voiceless for me is CM Punk, and I have to say, from the new school era, he was like my favorite. And I will say it's almost about a year, right, Josh, that he came back to wrestling,
Just
and it
about
was
coming up
it
on the year.
was I couldn't even believe it. I never thought I'd see him in a wrestling ring ever again.
Honestly, same. And he's just a hair higher on my list, so I'll save a little bit. I'll save a little bit of discussion for that.
Everything he did, though, like it was unbelievable, especially in 2011, 2012. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, CM Punk revolutionized the game. Honestly, hey, how you doing?
I love that hat. Who do you have at number 6?
For me, yeah, 6. I can't count. Sorry, guys. Number 6 for me is the rated R Superstar.
Superstar.
Sorry, I'm not Tony Chimble, ladies and gentlemen. That would be one Edge. Edge, he would have been a little lower on this list had he not made his return. Edge, at his age, being out of the ring for 8 years at the time when he made his return, man, Edge has been on a tear on this comeback. Like, I've said it before. I don't like retirement tours, but this isn't even a retirement tour. It's like Edge hit his stride at this point. Like, we had a great Edge when he retired in 2012 after WrestleMania 27. This Edge is an evolved Edge. This is like, hey, this is my final form. This is what I can do if you just let me take the reins and run with it. Seeing Edge, heel Edge, Judgment Day Edge, Edge choking out Randy Orton on top of a tractor trailer and during the pandemic, all that. Here for it. I am here for it. I've loved Edge's latest run so much. I came close to really crying true tears of joy when during that Rumble, it was like, you think you know me? And I was like, no, whoa. Like, everyone's like, oh, Edge is returning. We're all like, no,
until you actually saw it.
There's no way Edge is returning. Like, this man's had so many neck surgeries. There's no way. And you think you know me? I'm just like, oh my God, I've never been so happy to be wrong in my life.
I jumped out of my seat. I literally jumped out of my seat. Couldn't believe it.
To this day, and this has been 2 years ago now, to this day, when I see the video clip of Edge returning at the Rumble, I with a tear in my eye, like, it's great to see Edge back. I can't wait to see him beat Finn Balor at SummerSlam. Sorry, possible spoiler. I'm loving this Edge run. Edge comes in at number 6 for me.
It is very crazy, like, what science has really done, or whatever, because we never thought he was going to wrestle again, and he's not the first wrestler that's come back that we thought we'd never see again.
Bryan Danielson.
His was shorter. Like, Edge was almost like 2011 to 2020.
Yeah, it was like 2011 to 2020. It was like 9 years.
That's unheard of. So when it was like he could actually come back, I go, yeah, okay. The body can heal. Apparently.
I had high hopes when they let him spear Elias at the SummerSlam beforehand.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but they probably were able to clear him because it was like one spot. Elias kind of protected him a little bit. You know, it's whatever.
No, it's crazy that he's back.
And not only did he come back, he came back and then proceeded to have a last man standing, no holds barred match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania, which is one of the craziest things I would have thought you would tell me that Edge's first like 1-on-1 match would have been when he came back. We don't talk about David Arquette. All right.
Hey, Crayon Dude's jumping in. I missed these comments. Yes, he was a world champion. And we don't have, you know what? I do respect David Arquette. He came back and learned how to wrestle.
He almost died in a death match with Nick Gage.
That was on
Dark Side of the Ring.
Dark Side. Why can't I remember that right now? I don't know what it is. I remember. Yes.
That was wild. I'm pretty sure that's what brought about the PG era.
Yes, 100%. She's a lot younger than Edge was when he went down. So
I think Paige, even though she's been in WWE for so long, I think she's only like maybe like, if anything, maybe like a year or two older than me. She's got life in her.
She's young. You guys are young. I'm not.
I know it shows, doesn't it? Ignore the stress-induced wrinkles and gray hairs in my head at my age, but
me and Crayon Dude are not young. We're in our 30s. I know that.
Nah, you're at your peak. We'll say you're at your peak.
I will say, so number 6 for me, the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, Chris Y2J Jericho. Yes. And what he's still doing today boggles my goddamn mind. From a guy that I didn't watch, I wasn't watching ECW when he was there. He was Lionheart Chris Jericho when I first got introduced to him on WCW Saturday Night. Yes, I think I've said this on the show numerous times. I was a WCW Saturday Night kid. And WCW Prime on Sunday mornings. And he was this baby face that was just like, I don't know if I really care about him. And then he started to turn on Nitro and having, I want you to love me. And he was just Jericho that he is. and the man of 1,001 holds. And you start to see this actual character out of him, not this just white hot baby face who you didn't really care about.
Jericho's first list.
Yeah, that was his first list. You're right. He was just so goddamn funny, and they didn't want to push him. They didn't want to give him anything. And then he goes to WWF and got to be what he wanted to be. And look at him now. He still can recreate. No one's recreated themselves more than Chris Jericho. Nobody. I mean, for God's sake, the guy had a cruise with everybody singing his theme music that he wrote.
Yeah, that's another point. Chris Jericho, a man who is so well in tune with the wrestling world. He puts on a rock and wrestling rager cruise every year where they legitimately wrestle on a cruise ship and have rock music playing. Like, that's insane to me, but that is the most Chris Jericho thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, this man is like Chris Jericho is Ric Flair if Ric Flair was insane.
Does anybody understand the business more than him? Do you think?
No.
Is there 100%. Anybody?
Honest to God, I'm a little upset because I totally blanked on putting him on my list.
He's a fresk? What does that mean, Grant? He's a fresk.
A freaking wizard.
I thought he was talking about Fresca for a second, but yeah, no, go ahead, Josh.
So, I'm a little upset because I'm not gonna lie, Chris Jericho is not on my list, and that is not because I don't think he belongs there. I for 100% forgot. Like,
that's
I blanked. Right. I'm literally making this list, and I totally blanked on Chris Jericho.
This is why this episode's so much fun.
Chris Jericho, 100% should be top 10 for me. 100% should be top 10. Honestly, I'm going to boot Samoa Joe, and I'm going to put Chris Jericho right in between Cody Rhodes and Eddie Guerrero. So that would put him at my number. Because little backstage note here, ladies and gentlemen. My computer decided to hate me today and erase my original list, so I had to redo it. So there may be some names I've forgotten, but the top 10, pretty much the same. I forgot Chris Jericho on the first one, too. So that will put Chris Jericho at number 9 for me all time.
I think that's where he fit. Yeah, he has to be. I honestly, and people might disagree, he's got to be in someone's top 10. He has to be. Like I said, I don't think, I know a lot of people like complain about him and his political views and this and that. I'm like, I don't even know where he stands politically. Like, I think people are a little ridiculous, but he really is what wrestling should be. Like, I don't think anybody understands the business more than him. The lion tamer, yeah.
Look,
dude, you're hitting about 30 years of stuff he's done. You
name one person that could walk out on live television with a clipboard and a piece of paper and a pen and make that gimmick work. Chris Jericho made that work.
Wait, hold on. What'd you say, Josh? What'd you say to me? You know what?
I said.
You just made the list! It was just so, he's brilliant. He really is. Yeah, I think he's a big part of AEW being, yeah, I agree with that. And they knew what they were getting with him, and he wanted creative freedom, and he wasn't going to get that in WWE. That was never going to happen. He's in his 50s, and he goes, "Hey, Tony Khan, can I do this?" Tony Khan's probably like, "Sure." Yeah, you probably know better than I do.
Yeah, Tony probably really trusts Chris because Chris has been through decades of wrestling. Like, he's seen the progression, and every time Jericho changes a gimmick, it's in tune with what the people were looking for right now.
He gets it. He gets it.
His finger is right here on the pulse of the wrestling community. Like, that man, next time he changes a gimmick, I assure you it's going to hit then too.
So I'm not sure what he's going to do with the rest of his life. He's getting older. I will say he needs to be in WWE Hall of Fame.
100%.
But there could be a time where AEW is like, we want you in management.
I'd be down for that.
And he would be a good fit for that.
Honestly, if AEW ever starts bringing in like an actual creative team, they actually have people help write, Chris Jericho would be my number 1 pick.
He's got to be the first guy you look at.
I wouldn't even ask anyone else before I asked Chris, like, do you want to be a writer? Because Chris Jericho would write
Now
Everyone
that
I've
I've
ever
betrayed.
loved and pushed them all away.
And that's what they do. They all sing it. They all sing it. All right,
Even when they hate him.
we're gonna get to the real core here. Josh, who's your number 5?
My number 5. I am donning the hat of the man, the true current AEW World Champion. Obviously, the figure's making a comeback. CM Punk.
I need to get that. I need to get my hands on that.
Have fun. It's out to like August now. Oh,
Great.
so CM Punk makes it for me because I was at a point, and I feel like I'm speaking for a lot of fans who are watching WWE at this point. Man, 2009, 2010 WWE, early 2011 WWE, we were getting a real bad rut. It was just like, what even is this right now?
Well, the Nexus was great, but that got buried, so I won't even go there. Go ahead.
Buried very quickly. Very quickly. They weren't even on the roster for a month before they got buried. So, CM Punk becomes number 1 contender for the WWE title. Comes out in a Stone Cold Steve Austin t-shirt. Or as some people would call, I'm not going to say that. He comes out in a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt, which in itself is hilarious because Stone Cold is known for throwing some beers back, and Punk is known to be straight edge. Sits crisscross applesauce on a stage with a mic, and then proceeds to call Vince McMahon on his shit.
John, as you sit there as uncomfortable as I hope. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Like, people were like, is this a work or is this a shoot? Because he is saying things I don't know if he's allowed to say. Like,
which was awesome.
He mentioned Ring of Honor. What? Hold on. Right there is like, what?
Hey, Colt Cabana.
Like, and proceeded to say, this company, I'd love to say this company would be better off if Vince McMahon is dead, but they would just be taken over by his daughter, by his spoiled daughter and his doofus son-in-law. Like, it's like, oh my God. This sparked a revolution, not in the WWE, in wrestling as a whole. Because if you grew up in the ruthless aggression and PG eras like I did, there was not much other wrestling out there for you to enjoy.
And they stopped they didn't do shoot promos anymore.
Yeah, like
it wasn't a thing.
Like, the thing is, in that time period, it's like, you know, what wrestling's on TV? WWE. If you had Spike Network at the time, TNA. That's what you had. All of a sudden, CM Punk names drop Ring of Honor. People go look up Ring of Honor. Because of Ring of Honor, you get linked to New Japan. Because of Ring of Honor and New Japan, you get linked to all these other indie wrestling scenes that aren't really that well known. It reinvigorated independent wrestling. It brought it back to a forefront that had been long since taken a back seat to WWE. CM Punk proceeded to say what the WWE universe was saying about WWE. The difference is he was saying it into their microphone to go to their production truck, be cleared by their production team, and you know Vince had to hear every single word of it. And sure, Vince may have been in on this.
I think Vince wanted that, yeah.
But you can't tell me that even when Punk was a heel doing that you weren't sitting there like, tell it like it is, Punk. Like, you had to cheer this man. That's why they had to turn him face. He couldn't get over as a heel because he hit so many notes that you couldn't take him seriously as a heel. He was the most loved heel of all time.
It was the coolest thing that had happened in a very long time. It was one of the coolest things that that had happened. And again, because the year before with, you know, shout out to Crayon, dude. I love this. Whoops, I'm breaking the fourth wall. That's so true. If you remember the year prior, though, when Nexus first debuted, it felt very real, right? When they just kicked everybody's ass and Daniel Bryanson, he gets fired because he was choking out Justin Roberts with the tie or whatever. But there was some realism to it. And then they kind of messed it up.
Golden shovel.
A year later, so now, yeah, because at one point Punk was the leader of Nexus, which is
The
kind
new
of
Nexus.
like they'd killed that story and led into that one, which became awesome. And it took some time for it to progress, and then obviously, the Summer of Punk, which was amazing in 2011, was messed up. He finally gets the title back, and involving Kevin Nash in 2011 felt really weird. But he finally gets the title back, and he's the baby face, and then becomes a hit. Like CM Punk, just there's not too much more I think we can say how great he is. He can. I know Phil Brooks can be a dick, but the character CM Punk has been phenomenal over the years that we've watched him.
Also, let's give Phil Brooks a little bit of props for walking out on AEW Dynamite in Texas, wearing a abortion rights are women's rights
He
t-shirt.
cares.
That was actually pretty like.
Not afraid.
Man really is not afraid to speak his mind. This is great.
Not afraid to take a stand, and the majority of Americans agree with him, and I agree with him, and it's just unfortunate what's going on in the country right now. But I will give you my number 5 if you're ready for this.
I'm ready. Give it to me. Give it to me straight.
Bret Hart, without question. I like I said, I was a Hulkamaniac. I was a little stinger, but man, did I love Bret Hart growing up. And Bret legitimately did put on the best matches in that time period, where they thought they were going to go with Luger, and they decided, well, Bret's more over. Bret did not screw Bret. It was the wrestling business screwed Bret, in my opinion. I loved Bret Hart. It was tough. I didn't start to dislike Bret Hart until, and you're probably going to be like, well, that was everybody. WrestleMania 13. I was rooting for Bret against Steve Austin, and then they did the switch. And then I said, oh my God, I'm not a Bret Hart guy anymore. I'm a Steve Austin guy. Bret turned on us, and they started doing the Pro Canada gimmick and all that stuff, Yes, I agree. He's the best there is, the best there is, the best there ever will be. My first match that got me to love wrestling was SummerSlam 91. I was 6 years old, and I think I missed the first match of the card because there was a 6-man tag. I think the first match I ever saw, this is all I ever remember about wrestling, was Mr. Perfect versus Bret the Hitman Hart, SummerSlam 91. And if you've ever seen this match, it was wild. And guess what? It's now 2022 and I'm still hooked. It tells you everything about like how good not only Mr. Perfect was, but Bret Hart. Bret Hart was my guy growing up. But yes, I love Bret Hart. Always will be.
You can't have a top list without Bret Hart.
You have to. I mean, dude, he was everything. He
otherwise, his nickname doesn't make sense.
And he took over the company after, like, once Hogan left. It was Bret. It was Bret's company at that point. And then many other things happened, but the only thing that ever makes me sad about Bret's career is that when he got to WCW, you could tell he just didn't care anymore. And it could have been one of the biggest things ever. It's unfortunate. But who do you got at number 4, Josh?
All right, so number 4, I just want to take a moment and really, really paint a picture here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the top 4. So this, you're about to see, you may have gotten it from Dan before, but you're about to get the smokes. Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Coming in at number 4 would be the legend killer, Randy Orton.
Ooh.
Randy Orton is my number 4.
Okay.
So let's run through his career real quick. Youngest world champion in WWE history. This man started in 2002. And you cannot tell me that gas has not been on the damn gas pedal for the last 20 years. This man has consistently gotten better. First, we had, Randy Orton, ladies man, evolution. Then we get Legend Killer Randy Orton, RKO and Hulk Hogan's head on a trunk, trying to bury the Undertaker. We get the Legend Killer.
Mick Foley, he owes Mick Foley a lot too. I will say that.
He does. He owes Mick Foley a lot because that's what really started the Legend Killer gimmick. Then we get the Viper, Randy Orton. We see Legacy, which really put Cody Rhodes at the forefront. Really gave him time to shine because let's be real, if he stuck with Hardcore Holly,
That was a good move.
He probably never would have run anywhere. Then we get Apex Predator. Then we get the return of the Viper mixed with Apex Predator. Then we get RK Bro, which everyone, when that first happened, was like, there's no way this works. And if you can sit here, whoever's watching, if you can sit here and give me one solid reason why RK Bro has not been one of the more entertaining parts of WWE for the last year, I will gladly prove you wrong. Because RK Bro worked better than it ever should have. There's no world in which, if you had told me 2020 they were going to pair Randy Orton with an off-brand RVD character, I would have called you insane. But somehow, some way, that gimmick worked. And you know why it worked? It worked because of Randy Orton. Randy Orton, in my mind, is the man in WWE today. It's not Roman Reigns just because he got a couple belts. Because let me tell you, Randy Orton will put on a clinic with anybody. He will show anybody how to be a true performer in the WWE. Randy Orton has that credibility. Randy Orton is my number 4.
I like that pick.
I think Randy should be the one to be Cena's record.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can't get me to say more good things about Randy Orton than you've already just said, to be honest. So my number 4 is the dead man himself, the Undertaker. And holy crap, if I were to break down this whole career, which we know he already did in his Hall of Fame speech.
Best Hall of Fame speech in history.
Oh, unbelievable.
Probably never be topped again.
I do think, and I didn't think Mick Foley's daughter needed to tweet that, but I would say Mick Foley was left out of that. But I think he meant more to Foley's career than Foley meant to his career because he threw him off the thing. But
fun fact: Undertaker actually recently addressed that.
Did he really?
He said he really wanted to focus more on the people that built him to be the person he is, and he's talked till he's blue in the face about him and Mick Foley's, relationship. He wanted to shed light on the ones that we may not know that much about.
That's fair. That's fair.
That makes sense.
I will say this though, that Taker, when he debuted in 1990, I didn't watch till the next year. Obviously, I was only 6 years old, but I watched his progression as the dead man, who was really scary. He was really scary to me as a young child when he beat Hogan. And then by Survivor Series the next year, he was with the All Americans, and he started doing the babyface stuff. And then everybody started loving Undertaker. And he wins the title in '97 at WrestleMania, and he keeps doing this. He does the American Badass gimmick, where he just kept evolving. He wasn't just the dead man. And man, there's just so much that good that he did. He has to be in your top 5. He has to be in my top 5. I know that. Mark Calloway. I might have the Mark Calloway figure back here. WCW didn't know what to do with him. Vince McMahon knew what to do with him, or Pritchard, somebody knew. They said we can make something out of this.
True.
Yes, it was a great match, Crown Dude. I agree. For shock value,
I don't even want to talk about how many years that match probably took off of Mick Foley's career.
yeah, big fan of them both. We're going to talk about. Well, I don't want to spoil anything. Who do you have at 3?
My number 3 is the Phenom himself, The Undertaker. Look at that segue, ladies and gentlemen. Totally, we didn't plan this. Larry, Dan may know who my number 1 is because we've talked extensively about him, but he doesn't know the other 24 on this list. Hell, I didn't even know the other 24 on this list because I forgot Chris Jericho. But The Undertaker is my number 3. So, I mean, yeah, Dan, you pretty much hit all the main points. And, going back to what I said about MJF, Undertaker never turned kayfabe off. When his Hall of Fame speech was the first time we ever saw Mark Calloway on WWE television.
Which was unbelievable.
Never turned it off. That man was always
the American. When he was the American Badass, he talked, but never like you said in the Hall of Fame speech.
His voice even sounded different because even when he was doing the American Badass, he was like, "Oh, he had a little bit of a southern twang kind of." And this time he was like, "I want to thank my wife." I'm just like,
this was like him talking like we're talking right now.
Yeah, it's like what? Like, bro, I did not know you sounded like that. No, Undertaker is the man transcends sports entertainment. Even people that don't watch wrestling, haven't watched wrestling in years, you hit that gong, you know what's about to happen. Israel Adesanya at UFC 276 came out to the Undertaker's theme wearing the Undertaker's hat, carrying an urn. And I'm sitting here like, look at this. Mark Calloway's gimmick is literally so well known that UFC is now mimicking his entrance. That's
pretty dope.
That says a lot, people.
Well, I will tell you my number 3 here. And it might shock people, but this is the truth here. And it is Stone Cold Steve Austin. And you're probably saying, well, Dan, you grew up in the Attitude Era. How is Stone Cold not your number 1? He's just not. I love Stone Cold Steve Austin. But I can say that he was the best in that era. But there was 2 guys I liked a little bit more. And we're going to get into that. And one of them I can't find the actual figure I wanted. But Stone Cold was everything. I think anybody that watched in the Attitude Era, Stone Cold was the greatest thing ever. And I'll tell you this. I liked him before he was Stone Cold Steve Austin. I love Stunning Steve Austin.
Ringmaster.
I love the Hollywood Blondes. And somebody that left off my honorable mentions is Brian Pillman. I have more Brian Pillman figures than I ever needed. I guess I don't need any of these figures, but I have more Brian Pillman figures than I ever would need. I love the Hollywood Blondes. So, yes, seeing Stone Cold do exactly what he could do was unbelievable. And, he really is, you could debatably the greatest. No one drew more money than him, Sure. I was gonna, yes, yeah, you're right, Cran dude. Eric Bischoff firing Stone Cold Steve Austin led to WCW going out of business. It really did. You gave up a guy that was your top. He could have been your top star.
In my opinion, the Attitude Era was made by Mick Foley, Stone Cold, DX.
Who do you have at number 2?
Well, my number 2 is your number 3, buddy. You and me seem to kind of be like one off in this top 5. My number 2 is Stone Cold Steve Austin. When you hear that glass shatter, does blood not get pumping through your veins? You're like, oh, hell yeah, we gonna get some stunners and some Steve Weisers. This man came out and beat Kevin Owens' ass up and down in a no holds barred match.
Oh, unbelievable! Oh
I
my god,
mean, who
that was
would
so
ever
much
thought
fun.
we'd see that again? That was fantastic. We saw him come out the next night and give a few stunners out, one of which was the best sell of a stunner I've seen, and the other one was the worst I've ever seen. We're not going to get into that. Stone Cold is synonymous with the Attitude Era. In my mind, the Attitude Era would not have been the Attitude Era if it wasn't for Steve Austin giving Vince 2 birds to his face and hitting him with a stunner. It wouldn't have been the Attitude Era. It would have been the Degenerate Era, maybe. But it would not have been the Attitude Era. Stone Cold brought that attitude.
I 100% agree. I gotta say, like the Attitude Era too. If you think about it, it's all people at WCW pissed away. Steve Austin, who was a star, and I don't care what anybody says. Stunning Steve Austin was a star. Cactus Jack was a star. Jean-Paul Levesque, maybe not. Mark Calloway, maybe not. But they just pissed away these people that went on to be huge things in the other company. It just doesn't make sense. Stone Cold. Yeah.
That
It was.
again, that's what made the Attitude Era the Attitude Era. Because let's be real, who doesn't have daydreams? Well, I mean, I don't. I actually like my boss now, but I have had jobs like he's my boss. Who hasn't at least one time in your life wanted to give your boss 2 birds to his face and hit him with a stunner? Who hasn't wanted to do that? Stone Cold did it. All right, he did it more times than we can even count. More times than me and Dan have fingers and toes.
They literally took a guy who was a star, because Stunning Steve Austin was a star, said you weren't good enough, and just spoon fed him to WWE. And that's
they signed their death certificate.
They really
at
did.
that point.
Because guess what? Hulk Hogan was only going to go so far. It was great what he did, but it would only go so far. All right. So for my number 2, and this is special to me. Not only have I met him, and I told him who my number 1 favorite was, which I should have just said he was my favorite. I was there when he won the WWF title in the Worcester Centrum. And the biggest turn in the Monday Night War ever, the Finger Poke of Doom night. I was there. It was recorded. My number 2 is Mankind Mick freaking Foley. Mr. and Mrs. Foley's baby boy. I'm such a Mick Foley fan. I really am. Like he just seeing him, maybe it's because he won the title that night. It meant so much to me, where it kind of like told me as a 14-year-old child, like anything is possible. You can do anything you put your mind to. And watching him win the title was it was like Mick Foley's the WWE WWF at the time champion. I couldn't believe it. And getting thrown off the Hell in the Cell. This guy would have done anything. And I'll tell you one thing, Josh, it was kind of crazy. You might hear me out on this. I used to watch him on WCW Saturday Night as Cactus Jack. And I always thought he was this badass guy. My grandfather, when I used to go to his house and watch this stuff, he loved him too. But he never got pushed. And then he gets the Mankind gimmick. I didn't know that was Cactus Jack until he took the mask off. And I was, yes, I'm all in on Mick Foley.
One of my, I'm telling you, my favorite little fact about the Monday Night Wars is the fact that WCW thought they were really going to get one over on WWE by spoiling it, and that backfired.
Big time.
Immediately, everyone just flipped the channel. They're like, "Wait, what? Mick wins? Hold up, fuck this!" Like they skipped to the next. They turned the channel.
So imagine being in your adolescence, teenager, in the stands watching this. I couldn't believe it. All of a sudden, Stone Cold's music hits. He hits the chair, and I was just like, like it was like Mick Foley's really winning the title. And yeah, we went nuts. It was, dude, it's something I'll never forget. Even now, it was 98. I don't know how many years that is now. It's 2022, but It was something
24.
in my 24 years ago. It was something in my my brother took me. My brother took me. My brother was in high school, and he took me to the show, and it's something I'll never forget. Never forget. You know. So now we're gonna get down to number one. Really
Mhm.
getting down to this.
All right. So, allow me to paint you all a picture, ladies and gentlemen. The year is 2006. A wee 11-year-old Josh. Just
You were
but a
11
wee.
in 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I was 21. Okay, we're 10. Yeah, okay. Never mind.
So a wee 11-year-old Josh is sitting in his room. His cousin just got this DVD set of WrestleMania 22. And he's watching through it. And just me, but the wee puff of smoke, almost as if I was just off of a cigarette and not a forest fire like I am now. I'm sitting there watching it with him, and then I see a man put a trash can over an old man's head, lay him on the table, climb up a ladder, tell this man to suck it, and then jumped off this ladder and drove an elbow right through the heart of what I found out was actually his boss. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment I fell in love with wrestling. So, of course, my number one favorite wrestler of all time is none other than the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. This man started my love of wrestling. He started it. And I would be lying to you. I said it earlier. There's only been one time I've ever cried from a wrestling match, and it was WrestleMania 26 when Undertaker flipped Shawn upside down and jumped into the sky and hit him with a tombstone and pinned him 1, 2, 3, ending Shawn Michaels' career. Yes, I did cry on dude because I had to paint a picture. 11-year-old Josh did not have the giant head I do now, so hats just fell off, so I had to take the hat off. I cried when Shawn Michaels was retired. I truly cried. Fun fact, that was also the day that my first nephew was born. So my dad called me 10 minutes after that match. I'm sitting there like, "Hello," like so a little choked up. I was like, "Oh, okay, it's cool."
Yeah, there's
I
a
couldn't
child born. I can't right now.
just I don't care. Shawn Michaels is by far my favorite wrestler. This man has done so much in the wrestling industry. He's still doing stuff today. He's a coach in NXT, helps out big time with the town down there. Shawn Michaels, I can't even put into words how much I truly love Shawn Michaels in the ring as a person. He's just an all around. I don't know how I've heard the stories of how he was in the '90s, but he rededicated his life to Christ. He turned his life around. He really made something good of himself. He came back to the ring after breaking his back. Shawn Michaels is one of the best performers there's ever been. Shawn Michaels is the original Dolph Ziggler. You want to make someone look good, put him in the ring with Shawn. And all these spots that we see now that some people feel are overplayed and all. Super kicking people out of midair. Shawn did it the first and best. Because if you don't remember Shawn Michaels super kicking Shelton Benjamin's head off of his damn shoulders after a springboard attempt, then you need to go back and watch that match. Because that moment, even though it was before I got into wrestling, I went back and watched that match, and that moment consistently replays in my head all the time. And then the 2006 iteration of DX was phenomenal for me. Cyber Sunday, just I can be controversial. What's your name? Stan.
I just kicked Stan.
Like
That was Sean Spears, right?
Yeah, it was Shawn Spears.
Yeah.
It was a young Shawn Spears. Shawn Michaels is just one of the best to ever do it. He's my all-time favorite. So Shawn Michaels comes in number one for me. He's the biggest head on my Mount Rushmore.
So number one for me it's going to be controversial, but the Brooklyn Brawl. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm about to say, Dan, I know you are not.
It's also HBK Shawn Michaels. Without it, I don't even have to think about this. Now, my fanhood for Shawn goes a little bit further back. I remember when Shawn. I actually was watching WWF Superstars when Shawn threw Jannetty through the window, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Shawn, what are you doing? You were breaking up the rockers? Like, what's happening?" And I was sad about it because I was a little boy. And then he goes on to WrestleMania 8. He faces Tito Santana. You start to see how cocky he is and everything like that. And I hated Shawn Michaels at that time. I couldn't believe that he would do this to me. And then he goes to he has Sensational Sherry with him. Sherry used, if you've seen the original song, it was Sherry singing it, not Shawn. The original was Sherry. He thinks he's cute. He thinks he's sexy. It was Sherry singing it. Um, but all that happened, and then he faced a Tonka at WrestleMania 9, and I really wanted Tonka to win. But uh, what what turned for me was even when I rooted for Ramon at WrestleMania 10, but I all of a sudden I started to be like at WrestleMania 10, and I'm only in like third grade at this point. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what a match that was! I can't believe what I just saw. That was a great WrestleMania too, by the way, because Bret Hart and Owen Hart and all that stuff. And then by WrestleMania 11, he has the match with Diesel. And I'm like, man, you can't keep this guy down. And I remember that's where it started to turn for me, where Diesel was the baby face, but I wanted Shawn to win the match. Like, it really, I never liked Kevin Nash. Never liked Diesel. He's not on my list. You can see that here and there. I wanted Shawn to win that match. And then the next year came, and now it's Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. And I'm a Bret Hart kid, but I want Shawn to win to see a new champion. And Shawn won. It was like, and then he became that guy. But man, what really started to get me into it was like he started to have that edgier character, right? In like 1997, 98. And then he goes away. But what solidified me for Shawn Michaels was not his first run. Because we talk a lot about like nostalgia and what we really enjoyed when we were kids, because that's a lot of my list, Josh, right?
Mhm.
Shawn, 2002 to 2010 was one of the best things I've seen in wrestling ever. He had said it where he goes, no one will outperform me, no one will outdo this, no one will outdo that with me. He showed that he actually could do that. And it was that 8-year run was unbelievable.
That hour long match you have with Shawn Michaels in London,
It his match at 25, him and
greatest
Taker,
WrestleMania match of all time,
it's my
and I'm
favorite. It's
it's
my
not
favorite
even
match.
close for me. Like,
It's my favorite match. Shawn, what I will say about Michael Hickenbottom, Shawn Michaels, is that it's a redemption story. He gets injured. He's out of wrestling. He comes back and does better things than he's ever done before. Not that his first part of his career was not Hall of Fame worthy, because it was. But he comes back and does something even better. I don't think anybody else can really top what he did in two separate careers.
yeah, that's like there were 4 years. He was going 4 years with a back injury, and
Never
at
thought he
that
was coming
time,
back.
and I know we talked earlier about Edge being on 9 years on neck, but science has come a long way. 2002, science was not there for all that.
We never thought it was happening.
Like, this man came back, and it seemed like a miracle from God Himself has healed this man. And Shawn
Yes,
Michaels
and
went
he
on to
was a,
tear
he
it.
was born he was a born again Christian, yes, at that time, Grand Dude, and he also proved that someone can beat substance abuse and all these other things. Like it's a redemption story. It's everything you ever could want in a wrestling life, I guess, is what I'd say, Josh.
Yeah. And like, that's my thing. Like, Shawn, You got to think at that point, Shawn. Like you got to think, Shawn Michaels been wrestling since the '80s. So
Yeah.
for him in 2007 to still be putting on absolute clinics for matches, like the hour-long match with Cena. Cena, who had only been in the business for 5 years, and Shawn was going toe to toe with him for an hour. Like, just the ramifications that speaks in a behind the scenes kind of view. That Shawn, at his age at the time, could still go with the young talent and put on a fantastic match. That speaks volumes. Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, two of the oldest people on the roster at the time at WrestleMania 25, put on the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, and that still stands today, in my opinion.
No, I think Sean proved, or Michael Hickenbottom proved so much. He is my favorite wrestler of all time. No doubt in my mind. What was with Sean's? Getting older. Probably just getting older.
He always was to an extent. It just wasn't too noticeable. I think when they did the spot with, this is all speculation. I don't know if it's ever actually been said, but I think when they did the spot where Jericho threw him into the Jeritron or whatever the hell it was called, I think the TV actually did cut him here, so like his eye like healed weird, so it kind of had his eyelid like down a little first, and it made it look worse.
But I'll say this, man. It's two careers. It really is two careers. It's the first part, and that's when he gets hurt. And what sold me on Shawn Michaels being the greatest of all time, in my opinion, was the second half.
Yeah, the
Couldn't
way I
believe what
like
he.
the way I always like putting it is 90s Shawn Michaels was the Heartbreak Kid. The second run, that's when we really got Mr. WrestleMania Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's funny though. Again, we're talking. Me and Josh are about 10 years apart, and we're agreeing. We didn't agree on a lot of stuff, but we agreed on the number one overall,
It's true.
which is kind of crazy. You know,
It's because he was a main performer in both of our generations growing up.
that's a good
And
point because there was that gap. Yeah,
like Shawn was huge in the '90s when you were watching it. When you were my age, when I started watching it, like,
and then he came back.
and then he made his
Like,
return, and he was a big name when I was watching. Like, yes, The Rock was
yes, we both had
my
The Rock. I had The
Rock.
Rock at I don't know. I had The Rock at 21. I had The Rock at 21.
20.
So we all love The Rock. The Rock was great. Obviously he's gonna break into the top 25, but for what his career was, it's probably not gonna be in your top 10. And there might be other people that feel that he is in the top 10, but I didn't feel that way.
There's not enough substance there to put him in top 10 for me.
Very short career. But of course we all love The Rock. That's
Like,
in The Rock's
like here,
The Rock's
like here's what I'm saying. Like, the top 4 for me, my Mount Rushmore. There's 30 years of experience, 20, 30 years, 30 years, 20 years. CM Punk at number 5 has been wrestling since like early 2000s. This is damn near 20 years for him altogether. Like, The Rock wrestled for like 8 years. Like,
I think it was only 7, to be honest.
yeah, it wasn't long. Like,
Full time, that is.
so.
But anyways, that's our list. We both had Shawn Michaels at number 1. I think I kind of knew that might have been coming, but like our lists were very interesting. I hope everybody likes this show. Check it out. Again, 4 families. We're all together. You can check out Beyond the Pyro. Josh, when are you gonna be on again?
Saturday at 8. I was going to do a show last night. Some things came up. We'll be back, I promise, this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Saturday 8. Check it out. I might be on it. We're not sure, but we'll have 4 family members on there. We will have a show with Let Freedom Ring this week. Hopefully it's in the studio. We'll have to see what happens. But anything else you want to say, Josh? Anything else you want to promote or anything?
No, just put some respect on Shawn Michaels' name.
Hell yeah. and Crown Dude just put us on the list. We'll talk
Oh,
about that
great.
Crown Dude. But no, we love you all. Keep your heads up. Until next time, let freedom ring.